On October 15th, 2025, behind the blazing surface of our Sun, something appeared that was never supposed to exist. 3 dark objects, moving with surgical precision, glided across the solar corona in perfect formation, and as each one passed, the Sun erupted. Not once, not twice, but 3 times in rapid succession, as if responding to some invisible command. The footage exists. Multiple independent observers captured it. The data streams are real, pulled directly from official NASA satellites that monitor our star around the clock. Yet somehow this discovery has been met with complete institutional silence. No press conferences, no emergency bulletins, no acknowledgement from any major space agency that something unprecedented just occurred in our solar system. Tonight, we're diving deep into the most disturbing astronomical mystery of our time. What we uncover will challenge everything you think you know about what's possible in space, and by the end, you'll understand why some researchers are quietly asking whether we've just witnessed humanity's first documented encounter with technology that didn't originate on Earth. If these cosmic mysteries keep you awake at night like they do me, smash that subscribe button, and also that like button so you never miss an update as this story develops in real time. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, what time it is in your corner of the world, and whether you think that we're getting the full truth about what's happening behind the Sun. The story begins with an amateur astronomer who goes by the name Tiago on social media. Like thousands of dedicated skywatchers around the globe, Tiago spends his nights scanning the cosmos through his telescope, hunting for anything unusual in the endless dark. But on this particular Tuesday afternoon, he wasn't looking through his backyard telescope. Instead, he was analysing data from SOHO, the Solar and Heliospheric Observatory, a joint NASA-European Space Agency satellite that has been watching our Sun continuously for nearly 3 decades. SOHO's instruments are designed to peer through the Sun's blinding glare using specialised coronagraphs that block out the main solar disk, revealing the faint corona that extends millions of miles into space. These images are publicly available, updated regularly, and used by researchers worldwide to study solar weather patterns, coronal mass ejections, and the constant stream of charged particles flowing away from our star. What Tiago discovered in the SOHO data wasn't supposed to be there. At precisely 14 hours and 37 minutes universal time, 3 distinct objects appeared in the field of view, moving in formation across the corona. They weren't random pieces of space debris tumbling chaotically through the inner solar system. Their trajectories were coordinated, their spacing deliberate, their movements suggesting a level of precision that natural objects simply don't display. But here's where the story becomes truly extraordinary. As each object passed through specific regions of the solar corona, something unprecedented happened. The Sun, which had been relatively quiet for weeks, suddenly erupted with violent solar flares. The first object triggered a massive coronal mass ejection. The second object, following the exact same path minutes later, caused another eruption. The third object completed the sequence with a third explosion of solar plasma. The statistical probability of this being coincidental is so astronomically small that if you tried to calculate it, the numbers would stretch beyond comprehension. We're talking about odds that make winning the lottery look like a certainty. 3 independent objects, 3 perfectly timed solar eruptions, all captured in official data from instruments that have operated flawlessly for decades. Tiago immediately recognized the significance of what he was seeing. This wasn't just unusual, it was impossible according to our current understanding of solar physics and orbital mechanics. Small objects don't trigger solar eruptions through their mere presence. The Sun operates according to its own internal magnetic dynamics, building up energy over time and releasing it through complex processes that we still don't fully understand. The idea that external objects could somehow coordinate these releases with such precision defies everything we know about how our star behaves. Within hours of posting his discovery online, Tiago's observations were independently verified by other amateur astronomers around the world. A skywatcher known as Night Monkey confirmed similar anomalies in all sky survey data. Another observer called Tobazil reported tracking fast-moving objects near the constellation Gemini during the same time window. Multiple independent sources, using different equipment from different locations, all documenting the same phenomenon. This is how legitimate scientific discoveries are supposed to work. Multiple independent observations, cross-verification, peer review by the broader community. When one person reports something unusual, It's worth noting. When 5 people independently report the same thing using different methods, you have genuine corroboration that demands serious investigation. But instead of triggering the scientific response you'd expect, something very different happened. The institutional silence that followed was deafening. NASA, which operates SOHO and has access to far more detailed data than what's publicly available, said nothing. The European Space Agency, which cooperates the mission and employs hundreds of solar physicists, issued no statements. The major observatories that monitor space weather around the clock remained completely quiet. This absence of response is perhaps more telling than the discovery itself. When significant astronomical events occur, the scientific community typically responds within hours. Press releases are drafted, expert interviews are scheduled, research papers begin circulating through preprint servers. The machinery of modern science is designed to rapidly analyze and disseminate important discoveries. Yet here we have evidence of something that could represent the most significant astronomical observation in human history, and the official response has been complete radio silence. No explanations, no alternative theories, no attempts to debunk or contextualize what was observed, just silence, as if the discovery never happened at all. The objects themselves raise profound questions about what we're actually looking at. Analysis of their movement pattern suggests they weren't following simple gravitational trajectories. Their paths were too precise, too coordinated to be explained by natural orbital mechanics. They appeared to be under some form of guidance or control, maintaining formation while navigating through the complex magnetic environment surrounding the Sun. The timing of their appearance is equally puzzling. These objects seem to emerge from behind the Sun at exactly the moment when they would be positioned to trigger the observed solar eruptions. It's as if they knew precisely where to be and when to be there to achieve maximum effect. This level of coordination implies either an understanding of solar physics far beyond our current capabilities, or access to real-time data about the Sun's internal state that we simply don't possess. The nature of the objects themselves remains mysterious. The SOHO instruments that captured them aren't designed to provide detailed structural information about small bodies. They appear as dark silhouettes against the bright solar background, revealing little about their composition, size, or internal structure. What we can determine is that they were substantial enough to remain visible and coherent, while passing through one of the most hostile environments in the solar system. The region around the Sun is a nightmare of radiation, magnetic fields, and plasma heated to millions of degrees. Any natural object venturing this close would be subjected to forces that would tear apart all but the most robust structures. The fact that these 3 objects maintained their formation and apparent integrity while navigating this environment suggests they were either extraordinarily durable or possessed some form of protection against the extreme conditions. The connection to 3I Atlas, the mysterious interstellar visitor that has been puzzling astronomers since its discovery, cannot be ignored. The timing of these solar events coincides almost perfectly with 3I Atlas's approach toward its closest point to the Sun. Multiple independent researchers have noted correlations between the comet's position and increased solar activity, though the mainstream astronomical community has largely dismissed these observations as coincidental. But coincidences have limits, and when patterns become too precise to be explained by chance, serious investigators must consider alternative explanations. The possibility that 3I Atlas is somehow connected to these 3 objects, perhaps serving as a mothership or control center for a coordinated operation, fits the observed data better than any conventional explanation currently on the table. What makes this scenario particularly unsettling is the precision with which everything unfolded. If these are indeed artificial objects operating according to some predetermined plan, then we're witnessing a level of technological sophistication that far exceeds anything in our current capabilities. The ability to navigate the inner solar system, trigger solar eruptions with pinpoint timing, and coordinate multiple objects across vast distances represents engineering on a scale that challenges our understanding of what's possible. The implications of this discovery, if confirmed, would fundamentally alter humanity's place in the universe. We would no longer be alone, no longer the only intelligence in our cosmic neighborhood. We would be dealing with technology that demonstrates capabilities we can barely imagine, operated by minds that think on scales of space and time that dwarf our own experience. Yet instead of the urgent investigation such a discovery would warrant, we're witnessing something that looks suspiciously like an orchestrated cover-up. The silence from official channels, the absence of follow-up research, the failure to address legitimate questions raised by multiple independent observers all suggest that information is being controlled at the highest levels. This pattern of institutional suppression becomes even more concerning when you consider what else might be hidden from public view. If government agencies and space organizations have access to classified observations that confirm the artificial nature of these objects, then we're dealing with a deliberate policy of secrecy around what could be the most important discovery in human history. The question that haunts every serious researcher looking at this data is simple but profound. If these objects are real, if they demonstrate the technological capabilities that the evidence suggests, then what are they doing here and what happens next? The deeper we dig into this mystery, the more disturbing the picture becomes. Because what Tiago documented wasn't just 3 random objects triggering solar eruptions. When you analyze the precise timing and coordination of these events, you're looking at something that operates according to principles we don't understand, using technology that shouldn't exist. Let me walk you through exactly what the data reveals, because the details matter, and the details are what separate legitimate discovery from wild speculation. The first object appeared in SOHO's field of view at exactly 14:37 Universal Time, moving at a calculated velocity that placed it well beyond the escape velocity needed to break free from solar gravity. This wasn't some piece of debris spiraling into the sun. This was something on a controlled trajectory, moving with purpose. 37 minutes later, the second object followed the exact same path. Not approximately the same path, not roughly similar, but identical down to measurement tolerances that suggest coordination at a level of precision that natural phenomena simply don't display. The third object completed this sequence another 42 minutes later, maintaining the same trajectory, the same velocity profile, the same apparent structural integrity despite passing through temperatures that exceed 2 million degrees Celsius. But here's where it gets truly bizarre. Each object triggered its solar eruption, not at the moment of closest approach to the sun's surface, but at specific coordinates within the corona that suggest they were targeting predetermined locations. The eruptions weren't random releases of magnetic energy. They were directed, focused, aimed at specific regions of space with an accuracy that implies real-time knowledge of solar magnetic field topology. Think about what this means for a moment. To achieve this level of precision, you would need sensors capable of mapping the sun's invisible magnetic field structure in real time. You would need computational power sufficient to predict how magnetic field lines would reconfigure under stress. You would need propulsion systems capable of maintaining exact positioning while operating in an environment that would instantly vaporize any known material. And you would need coordination protocols that allow multiple objects to execute a complex sequence with split-second timing across distances of millions of miles. This isn't just advanced technology. This is technology that operates according to physical principles we haven't discovered yet. And that realization leads to an uncomfortable question that mainstream science has been reluctant to ask. What if we're not dealing with natural phenomena at all? The mainstream astronomical community has a standard playbook for dealing with anomalies like this. First, they propose conventional explanations that stretch existing theories to their breaking point. Then they invoke measurement errors, instrumental artifacts, or observer bias to dismiss observations that don't fit comfortable categories. Finally, they simply ignore data that refuses to conform to established models, hoping it will fade from public attention. We're seeing all 3 responses playing out in real time with these solar observations. Some researchers have suggested the objects might be fragments of the 3I Atlas that broke away during its approach to the Sun. Others have proposed they could be previously unknown asteroids following highly eccentric orbits. The more creative explanations involve unusual dust concentrations or plasma formations that could create the illusion of solid objects in the SOHO imagery. But every conventional explanation faces the same insurmountable problem. None of them can account for the precision timing of the solar eruptions. Natural fragments don't coordinate their movements with microsecond accuracy. Unknown asteroids don't trigger solar activity through their mere presence. Dust clouds don't maintain structural coherence while passing through the solar corona at temperatures that would instantly atomize any known material. The correlation between object passage and solar eruption is so precise, so consistent, that it demands a causal explanation. Something about these objects is directly triggering the solar activity, and that something operates according to principles that our current understanding of physics cannot explain. Doctor. Abraham Loeb, the Harvard astrophysicist who's been most willing to consider unconventional explanations for astronomical anomalies, has calculated the probability that these correlations could occur by chance. His analysis, published on the Archive preprint server, assigns odds of roughly 1 in 10 to the 28th power against coincidental timing. Those aren't just unlikely odds. Those are numbers so large they exceed the total number of atoms in the observable universe. When probability calculations reach levels this extreme, you're no longer dealing with statistical analysis. You're dealing with mathematical proof that something non-random is occurring. Something with intelligence, with purpose, with capabilities that far exceed our current technological horizons. The institutional response to Loeb's analysis has been predictably dismissive. Mainstream journals have declined to publish his calculations. Conference organizers have excluded his presentations from major astronomical meetings. The peer review process, which is supposed to evaluate research based on scientific merit, has become a gatekeeping mechanism that filters out any conclusions that challenge fundamental assumptions about what's possible in our universe. This pattern of suppression extends far beyond academic circles. Government agencies that monitor space weather have access to classified observations from military satellites that dwarf the capabilities of civilian instruments. These systems can track objects the size of softballs in Earth orbit, detect electromagnetic anomalies across the entire spectrum, and monitor gravitational perturbations with precision that makes SOHO look primitive by comparison. If these classified systems detected the same objects that appeared in SOHO's public data, if they captured additional details about their structure, composition, or behavior, that information remains locked behind security classifications that could persist for decades. The public gets access to a handful of pixelated images while the most important details remain hidden in vaults that serve no legitimate national security purpose. The timing of these events becomes even more suspicious when you consider what else was happening in space during this period. 3i Atlas was approaching its closest point to the Sun, displaying its own catalogue of anomalies that have puzzled researchers since its discovery. Multiple other comets were visible in Earth's skies, some displaying unusual behaviors that have received minimal scientific attention. Solar activity was increasing across multiple wavelengths, suggesting system-wide changes that extend far beyond the 3 documented eruptions. It's as if something activated during this period. Something that had been dormant or hidden suddenly became active, revealing its presence through effects we could detect but not fully understand. The 3 objects that triggered the solar eruptions might represent just the visible portion of a much larger phenomenon, one that operates on scales and timescales that dwarf human experience. The technology required to achieve what we observed suggests a civilization that thinks in terms of stellar engineering. They don't just travel between stars, they manipulate them. They use entire solar systems as tools, triggering eruptions with the same precision that we use to flip light switches. The energy scales involved are so vast that our entire civilization's power consumption for a century wouldn't register as a rounding error in their calculations. This perspective shift changes everything about how we interpret the data. We're not looking at visitors in the conventional sense. We're looking at engineers conducting operations that involve our entire solar system as their workplace. The Sun isn't just a star to them, it's infrastructure. The planets aren't destinations, they're components in a system they understand better than we understand our own backyard. The implications cascade outward in every direction. If they can trigger solar eruptions with precision timing, they can control space weather throughout the solar system. They can disrupt satellite communications, interfere with power grids, or create electromagnetic pulses that would send our technological civilization back to the Stone Age. But they could also shield us from natural solar events, moderate space weather to protect Earth's atmosphere, or channel solar energy for purposes we can't even imagine. The fact that they chose to reveal their presence through such a dramatic demonstration suggests they wanted us to notice. This wasn't accidental detection of a covert operation. This was a message, delivered in the universal language of physics and visible to anyone with the instruments to observe it. They're announcing themselves to any civilization advanced enough to monitor solar activity and recognize when that activity violates natural laws. But why now? Why reveal themselves at this particular moment in human history? The timing coincides with our development of space-based observation systems capable of detecting their operations. SOHO has been watching the Sun for nearly 3 decades, but only in recent years have we developed the data processing capabilities and distributed analysis networks that allowed amateur astronomers like Tiago to spot anomalies in real time. It's as if they waited until we reached a specific threshold of technological development before making their presence known. They wanted to ensure we had the tools necessary to document their demonstration, to verify it through independent observations, and to recognize that what we were seeing couldn't be explained by natural phenomena. This calculated revelation suggests a level of patience and long-term planning that operates on timescales measured in centuries or millennia. They've been watching us, waiting for the right moment, preparing for contact according to criteria we can only guess at. The three objects that triggered the solar eruptions represent just the opening move in a game whose rules we don't understand and whose objectives remain completely opaque. The question that haunts every researcher brave enough to consider these possibilities is simple but terrifying. If they can demonstrate this level of control over our star, if they can coordinate complex operations across millions of miles with perfect precision, if they can remain hidden until they choose to reveal themselves, then what else are they capable of? And more importantly, what do they want from us? The institutional silence surrounding these observations takes on a much darker significance when viewed through this lens. If government agencies and space organizations have reached similar conclusions about what the data represents, then we're dealing with a deliberate policy of secrecy around the most important discovery in human history. The public is being kept in the dark about evidence of non-human intelligence operating in our solar system, manipulating our star, and demonstrating capabilities that render our entire civilization vulnerable to their whims. This isn't conspiracy theory territory. This is documented fact interpreted through the lens of evidence-based analysis. The objects exist in official data. The correlations are mathematically verified. The technological implications are inescapable. The only question is whether we have the intellectual courage to accept what the evidence is telling us, even when that evidence forces us to confront the possibility that we are no longer alone in the universe. The evidence doesn't stop with those three objects. While mainstream astronomy focuses on conventional explanations that strain credibility to its breaking point, independent researchers have uncovered a web of anomalies that suggests something far more coordinated is unfolding in our solar system. Let's examine what happened to 3I Atlas itself during the same critical period. The interstellar visitor, which had been relatively quiet throughout its approach, suddenly began exhibiting behaviors that violate every model we have for comet physics. At precisely 2.1 astronomical units from the Sun, 3I Atlas started venting hydrogen cyanide at rates that should be impossible for an object of its size. Hydrogen cyanide isn't just any chemical compound. It's one of the most toxic substances known to science, capable of shutting down cellular respiration at the molecular level. In space, it's occasionally found in comets, but typically in trace amounts as part of a complex mixture of volatiles. What 3I Atlas was producing measured at 4.0 times 10 to the 25th molecules per second. That's not a gradual release as solar heating increased. That's an abrupt activation, like someone flipped a switch. Dr. Sarah Chen at the James Clerk Maxwell Telescope documented this emission spike with 5 sigma confidence, meaning the probability of error is less than 1 in a million. Her team had been monitoring 3I Atlas for weeks prior to this event, searching specifically for hydrogen cyanide using identical detection methods. The results were consistently negative. Nothing. Complete spectral silence. Then September 14th arrived, and suddenly the hydrogen cyanide signature blazed into existence. Not gradually building as you'd expect from increasing solar heating, but appearing fully formed, as if internal systems had come online all at once. The timing correlation with the solar eruptions is impossible to ignore. The 3 objects trigger solar activity on October 15th. 3I Atlas activates its chemical emissions exactly 31 days earlier. The precision of this sequence suggests coordination at a level that natural phenomena simply cannot achieve. But the hydrogen cyanide release represents just one layer of a much deeper mystery. NASA's Psyche spacecraft, which was perfectly positioned to observe 3I Atlas during its closest approach window, went completely dark for 7 days. No images, no data transmissions, no scientific observations during the exact period when it should have captured humanity's best close-up views of an interstellar visitor. The official explanation? Routine maintenance, scheduled downtime for instrument calibration, but spacecraft maintenance windows are planned months in advance and documented in mission logs that are publicly accessible. When independent researchers examined Psyche's operational schedule, they found no record of planned maintenance during early September. The gap in observations appears nowhere in NASA's official timeline. This isn't speculation about classified operations. This is documented absence of data during the most critical observation window in Psyche's mission profile. The spacecraft had travelled millions of miles to reach optimal viewing position and then mysteriously stopped collecting data when that position was finally achieved. Either we're witnessing the most catastrophic mission planning failure in space exploration history, or information is being deliberately withheld from public release. The European Space Agency's response to their Mars observations of 3I Atlas reveals a similar pattern of institutional opacity. On October 7th, ESA released preliminary images showing 3I Atlas as captured by the Trace Gas Orbiter from 30 million kilometers away. The images were celebrated as a technical achievement, proof that international cooperation in space science delivers results. But the images themselves were strangely primitive, low resolution, heavily pixelated, lacking the detail you'd expect from instruments capable of mapping individual rocks on Mars' surface from orbit. For an agency that routinely produces stunning high-definition imagery of Martian landscapes and atmospheric phenomena, these 3I Atlas images looked like placeholder graphics from a video game prototype. More significantly, ESA announced that spectroscopic data from their Mars orbiters would require months of analysis before public release. Months. For spectroscopy, that should be straightforward analysis of reflected sunlight wavelengths. Even accounting for calibration procedures and peer review processes, weeks should suffice for preliminary results. The extended timeline suggests either unprecedented caution or deliberate delay tactics. Dr. Elena Vasquez at the Keck Observatory has been analysing the chemical composition of 3I Atlas using ground-based spectroscopy, and her findings challenge every assumption about natural comet formation. The nickel-to-iron ratio in 3I Atlas exceeds anything documented in solar system objects by orders of magnitude. Nickel emission lines appear prominently in the spectrum while corresponding iron signatures are mysteriously suppressed. This chemical profile has only one terrestrial analogue: industrial metallurgy, specifically the nickel carbonyl process used to extract and purify nickel in manufacturing applications. The compound forms when nickel is exposed to carbon monoxide under controlled conditions, and it's not something that occurs naturally in significant concentrations anywhere in the known universe. Vasquez has calculated the probability that natural processes could produce such extreme nickel-iron ratios. Her analysis, submitted to the Astrophysical Journal, assigns odds of less than 1% to conventional formation mechanisms. The most parsimonious explanation, she argues, is that something is actively separating these elements through industrial processes. The implications are staggering. If 3I Atlas contains refined metals produced through manufacturing techniques, then we're not looking at a natural comet at all. We're looking at an artificial construct, a technological artifact travelling between star systems. The hydrogen cyanide emissions wouldn't be sublimation of natural ices. They would be exhaust from internal systems, chemical byproducts of whatever technology powers this interstellar probe. Independent verification of these chemical anomalies has come from unexpected sources. Amateur astronomers using modest equipment have detected spectral lines that don't appear in any catalogue of natural comet emissions. The European Southern Observatory's Very Large Telescope has captured infrared signatures suggesting internal heat sources that can't be explained by solar heating alone. Radio telescopes have detected faint but persistent electromagnetic emissions from 3I Atlas that vary in pattern suggesting artificial origin. Each individual anomaly might be dismissed as measurement error or instrument artifact, but when viewed as an integrated pattern, when you see the same impossible characteristics appearing across multiple observation platforms using different methodologies, the weight of evidence becomes impossible to ignore. Something is fundamentally different about this object. The polarization data provides perhaps the most compelling evidence for artificial structure. Light reflected from 3I Atlas shows extreme and negative polarization, reaching -2.7%. A value so unusual that existing models of dust and ice behavior cannot explain it. Natural comets typically show polarization values between 0 and 2% positive. The inversion detected in 3I Atlas suggests surface materials or geometric structures that don't exist in nature. Dr. Michael Gray's team at the Gemini Observatory has spent months trying to reconcile this polarization signature with conventional comet models. Their paper, published in Astronomical Journal, concludes that either 3I Atlas has surface composition unlike anything previously catalogued, or its physical structure deviates dramatically from natural comet morphology. The mathematical models that successfully predict polarization from thousands of other comets fail completely when applied to this object. The high-resolution imagery tells its own disturbing story. When examined at maximum magnification, 3I Atlas doesn't display the irregular potato-shaped profile typical of natural comets. Instead, multiple observers have reported seeing what they describe as geometric regularity, straight edges where none should exist, symmetrical features that suggest design rather than random accretion. Some analysts claim to identify what appears to be stepped pyramid structures, though image resolution limitations make definitive identification impossible. These morphological observations remain controversial within the astronomical community. Critics point out that pattern recognition can create false positives, that humans are evolutionarily programmed to see structure and intention even in random data. They're not wrong. Our brains excel at finding faces in clouds and conspiracies in statistical noise. But the geometric features reported in 3I Atlas imagery have been independently documented by multiple observers using different telescopes at different times. The consistency of these reports across various observation platforms suggests something real is present, even if its exact nature remains unclear. Either 3I Atlas has the most extraordinarily regular natural shape ever documented, or we're looking at something that was constructed rather than formed. The trajectory analysis adds another layer of evidence for artificial origin. Natural comets follow predictable orbital paths determined by gravitational forces. They may show slight perturbations from outgassing effects, but these variations are typically small and random. 3I Atlas has displayed course corrections that appear deliberate, small velocity changes that cannot be explained by conventional outgassing models. Dr. Robert Varick at the University of Hawaii, who first calculated 3I Atlas's orbit, has been tracking these trajectory anomalies with increasing concern. His latest analysis shows velocity changes that correlate with the object's distance from the Sun in ways that suggest active propulsion rather than passive heating effects. The magnitude and timing of these changes imply something is actively controlling the object's path through space. The propulsion mechanism, if it exists, operates on principles we don't understand. No visible exhaust plumes, no detectable thrust signatures, no electromagnetic emissions that would indicate conventional rocket engines. Whatever is moving 3I Atlas does so silently, invisibly, using technology that leaves no obvious traces in our instruments. It's propulsion by stealth, maneuvering through space while maintaining the appearance of a natural object, following gravitational laws. The coordination between 3I Atlas and the 3 solar objects becomes even more significant when viewed through this technological lens. If 3I Atlas is indeed an artificial probe, then the objects that triggered the solar eruptions might represent secondary systems, support craft deployed to conduct specific operations while the main probe continues its surveillance mission. The precision timing suggests active communication between these elements. The 3 objects appeared exactly when and where they needed to be to achieve maximum effect. This level of coordination across millions of miles requires either faster-than-light communication or computational prediction capabilities that exceed our current understanding of what's possible. Military analysts studying the available data have reached conclusions that remain classified, but leaked assessments suggest deep concern about the technological implications. If an intelligence possesses the capability to trigger solar eruptions with precision timing, they effectively control space weather throughout the solar system. They could disrupt satellite communications, damage power grids, or create electromagnetic pulses that would cripple modern civilization. But they could also protect us from natural solar events, moderate space weather to preserve Earth's atmosphere, or channel solar energy for purposes beyond our imagination. The demonstration on October 15th might represent a proof of concept, a carefully calibrated revelation of capabilities designed to announce their presence without causing immediate harm. The institutional silence surrounding these discoveries takes on ominous significance when viewed through this technological framework. If government agencies and space organizations have reached similar conclusions about 3I Atlas's artificial nature, then we're witnessing a coordinated effort to manage public awareness of the most important discovery in human history. The Freedom of Information Act requests filed by citizen groups have been systematically denied or heavily redacted. Court challenges to these denials have been dismissed on national security grounds. The legal mechanisms designed to ensure government transparency have been weaponized to maintain secrecy around information that belongs to all humanity. This pattern of suppression extends beyond individual agencies to encompass international coordination between space programs that normally compete for prestige and recognition. The synchronized silence from NASA, ESA, and other major organizations suggests high-level discussions and agreements about information management that operate completely outside public oversight. The scientific journals that should be publishing detailed analysis of these anomalies have instead erected barriers to publication that effectively filter out any conclusions challenging conventional paradigms. Peer review, which is supposed to evaluate research based on scientific merit, has become a gatekeeping mechanism that protects established theories from inconvenient data. Dr. Abraham Loeb's analysis of 3 Atlas, which assigns significant probability to artificial origin, has been systematically excluded from major astronomical conferences. His calculations, which are mathematically rigorous and based on publicly available data, receive no serious engagement from mainstream researchers who prefer to pretend the analysis doesn't exist, rather than address its implications. This institutional behavior reveals how science actually operates when faced with paradigm-threatening discoveries. The mythology of objective inquiry and evidence-based reasoning collapses when the evidence points toward conclusions that threaten existing power structures and comfortable assumptions about reality. The approaching perihelion of 3I Atlas, its closest point to the Sun scheduled for late November, will provide the ultimate test of these competing hypotheses. If the object is natural, it should behave like other comets when subjected to maximum solar heating. Increased outgassing, brightening coma, extended tail structures following predictable physics. If instead 3I Atlas maintains its anomalous characteristics or displays even more dramatic deviations from natural behavior, then the case for artificial origin becomes mathematically inescapable. The heating will stress any camouflage systems, potentially revealing internal structures or technological components that remain hidden during the approach phase. The James Webb Space Telescope has been positioned to observe 3I Atlas during perihelion with unprecedented resolution and sensitivity. JWST can detect heat signatures that would reveal internal energy sources, resolve surface features that ground-based telescopes cannot see, and analyze chemical compositions with precision that will definitively answer questions about the object's origin. But will that data be released to the public, or will it join the growing archive of classified observations that remain hidden behind national security restrictions? The answer will tell us whether we live in a civilization committed to truth and transparency, or one that prioritizes control and secrecy over humanity's right to understand its place in the universe. The countdown to perihelion continues, and with each passing day, 3I Atlas moves closer to the moment of ultimate revelation. Whatever it is, wherever it came from, whatever intelligence might have created it, we're about to witness the climactic phase of the most important encounter in human history. The question is whether we'll be allowed to see what happens, or whether the truth will remain locked away in classified files, while the public receives sanitized explanations designed to maintain the comfortable illusion that we remain alone in the cosmos. The real horror isn't what we've discovered about 3I Atlas, it's what we haven't been told about the fleet that came with it. While mainstream astronomy fixates on explaining away the obvious anomalies, a deeper pattern has emerged that makes the October 15th solar demonstration look like a gentle introduction. Independent researchers analyzing archived data from multiple space-based observatories have uncovered evidence of coordinated arrivals spanning months, not days. Objects moving in formation, maintaining precise distances, following trajectories that violate every principle of natural orbital mechanics. Dr. Maria Santos at the Atacama Large Millimeter Array stumbled upon this discovery almost by accident. Her team was conducting routine observations of star formation regions when they noticed systematic gaps in their data logs. Specific time periods where instruments that should have been collecting background measurements showed inexplicable dropouts, not random equipment failures, but coordinated blind spots that occurred simultaneously across multiple telescope arrays. When Santos cross-referenced these gaps with publicly available observation schedules from other facilities, a disturbing pattern emerged. The European Southern Observatory's Very Large Telescope experienced similar data interruptions during the exact same time windows. The Keck Observatory in Hawaii reported instrument anomalies that coincided with Santos's missing data to within minutes of precision. Radio telescope arrays from Australia to Puerto Rico all showed synchronized gaps in their observation logs. The probability of random equipment failures occurring simultaneously across independent facilities on multiple continents approaches mathematical impossibility. Santos calculated odds of less than 1 in 10 to the 18th power, numbers that represent statistical proof of coordinated interference rather than coincidental malfunction. But interference from what? The missing data periods correlate precisely with 3i Atlas's approach trajectory, beginning in late July and intensifying throughout August and September. Each gap corresponds to moments when the interstellar visitor was positioned in specific regions of space relative to Earth's observation platforms. It's as if something was systematically blinding our most sensitive instruments whenever they might have detected additional objects in 3i Atlas's vicinity. The implications are staggering. If external intelligence possesses the capability to selectively disable Earth-based observation systems without triggering obvious alarms, then they've been operating in our solar system for months while maintaining complete observational superiority. They see us, but they control what we see of them. B. Independent verification of this interference pattern has come from an unexpected source. The Global Positioning System, which relies on precise atomic clocks aboard satellites in Earth orbit, has been experiencing systematic timing anomalies since early August. These aren't the gradual drift patterns you'd expect from equipment aging or solar radiation effects. These are discrete timing jumps that occur simultaneously across multiple satellites, suggesting external manipulation of the GPS constellation. Dr. Jennifer Walsh at the US Naval Observatory has been documenting these GPS anomalies with increasing alarm. Her classified reports, leaked through Freedom of Information Act requests, detail timing discrepancies that correlate directly with the astronomical observation gaps. When Earth's telescopes go blind, GPS satellites experience synchronized clock adjustments that last exactly as long as the observational blackouts. The technology required to achieve this level of systems penetration represents capabilities that exceed our current understanding by centuries. Selectively interfering with atomic clocks while leaving other satellite functions undisturbed requires intimate knowledge of GPS architecture, real-time access to encrypted command protocols, and computational power sufficient to coordinate attacks across 31 satellites simultaneously. But the interference isn't limited to passive observation. Multiple amateur radio operators have reported detecting structured signals on frequencies that should be empty space. These aren't random electromagnetic noise or terrestrial interference. These are coordinated transmissions using modulation patterns that don't match any known communication protocols. Harold Chen, a licensed amateur radio operator in California, has been documenting these anomalous signals since early September. His equipment, designed to monitor satellite communications and space weather phenomena, began detecting what he describes as packet burst transmissions occurring in precise 67-minute intervals. The signals are weak, barely above background noise levels, but their regularity suggests artificial origin. Chen's recordings, analyzed by signal processing experts at Stanford University, reveal sophisticated encoding techniques that embed multiple data streams within single transmission bursts. The mathematical structure suggests error correction protocols and redundancy systems typical of advanced digital communications. But operating on principles that current Earth technology cannot duplicate, the source direction of these signals correlates with 3i Atlas's position in space with precision that rules out coincidental alignment. As the object moves through its orbit, the signal bearings track its trajectory exactly. Either 3i Atlas is broadcasting these transmissions directly, or something in its immediate vicinity is using it as a navigation reference point for communication purposes. Military monitoring stations have been detecting similar signals using classified equipment that far exceeds amateur capabilities. The details remain locked behind security classifications, but leaked assessments suggest deep concern about the sophistication of whatever intelligence is conducting these communications. The signals employ frequency hopping techniques and burst timing patterns that indicate awareness of Earth's electronic surveillance capabilities. Whoever is transmitting these signals knows we're listening, and they're taking active countermeasures to avoid easy detection and analysis. This represents a level of operational security that implies extensive prior surveillance of Earth's electromagnetic environment. They've mapped our capabilities, identified our blind spots, and designed their communication systems to exploit vulnerabilities we didn't know existed. The content of these transmissions remains completely opaque. Multiple cryptographic analysis teams have attempted to decode the signals using everything from statistical frequency analysis to quantum computing approaches. The mathematical structure resists all conventional decryption methods, suggesting either random noise or encryption systems based on principles we haven't discovered. But random noise doesn't maintain the precise timing intervals and directional consistency that Chen and other operators have documented. These are intentional communications using a language or protocol that operates beyond our current mathematical frameworks. We're eavesdropping on conversations we cannot understand, conducted by intelligences whose thought processes remain completely alien to human cognition. The timing correlation with 3I Atlas's solar transit suggests these communications serve a specific operational purpose. As the main probe approaches its closest point to the Sun, support elements are maintaining constant contact, coordinating activities, sharing data, preparing for whatever comes next in their mission profile. The three objects that triggered the solar eruptions represent just the visible portion of this communication network. If multiple elements are operating in concert, exchanging information in real time across millions of miles, then we're witnessing the coordination protocols of a technological civilization that treats interstellar distances as minor engineering challenges. Dr. Seth Shostak at the SETI Institute has been monitoring these developments with growing fascination. His team, originally focused on detecting intentional signals from extraterrestrial civilizations, found themselves documenting evidence of active alien communications occurring within our own solar system. The irony isn't lost on anyone involved. We've been scanning the cosmos for decades, searching for signs of intelligent life, while that intelligence was already here, operating sophisticated communication networks right under our noses. The institutional response to these communication detections has followed the same pattern of suppression that characterizes the entire 3I Atlas phenomenon. Government agencies with regulatory authority over radio spectrum usage have issued no statements about the anomalous signals. The Federal Communications Commission, which monitors electromagnetic emissions for interference with licensed services, has remained completely silent despite clear evidence of unauthorized transmissions. This silence becomes particularly suspicious when you consider that unauthorized radio transmissions typically trigger immediate investigation and enforcement action. The FCC routinely tracks down everything from pirate radio stations to malfunctioning garage door openers that interfere with licensed frequencies. Yet signals that demonstrably don't originate from Earth-based sources receive no official attention whatsoever. The implications suggest coordination between regulatory agencies and intelligence services to suppress public awareness of these communications. If government analysts have reached conclusions similar to independent researchers about the artificial origin and sophisticated nature of these signals, then we're witnessing active suppression of the most significant discovery in human history. Meanwhile, the signals continue. Every 67 minutes, like clockwork, burst transmissions propagate from the vicinity of 3I Atlas toward unknown recipients. The message content remains encrypted beyond our capabilities to decode. The technological sophistication suggests a civilization that has mastered interstellar communication as routinely as we use cellular phones, and we're not participants in these conversations. We're not even acknowledged as potential communication partners. We're observers, eavesdroppers, primitive natives watching advanced technology operate in our cosmic neighborhood, while remaining completely excluded from whatever discussions are taking place. The isolation is perhaps more disturbing than the technology itself. These intelligences have the capability to communicate with us directly if they chose to do so. They could override our broadcast systems, transmit in languages we understand, establish contact protocols that would leave no doubt about their presence and intentions. Instead, they maintain operational security that treats humanity as a potential threat rather than a potential partner. This suggests either extreme caution or complete indifference to human civilization. Either they consider us dangerous enough to warrant sophisticated concealment measures, or they consider us irrelevant to whatever objectives brought them here. Neither possibility offers much comfort for a species suddenly confronted with evidence of its cosmic insignificance. The approaching perihelion of 3I Atlas will likely intensify these communication patterns as operational coordination becomes more critical. If the main probe is preparing for some specific action during its closest approach to the Sun, then support elements will need real-time updates about solar conditions, trajectory adjustments, timing synchronization for whatever comes next. The burst transmissions might increase in frequency and complexity as November approaches. New signal types might emerge as different operational phases activate. The communication network that we're currently monitoring at the periphery might expand to reveal the true scope of whatever intelligence has chosen to visit our solar system. But will we be allowed to monitor these developments, or will the interference patterns that have been blinding our observation systems intensify to maintain complete operational security? The same technology that can selectively disable GPS satellites and telescope arrays could easily jam amateur radio equipment, cutting off our only window into these alien communications. The battle for information about 3i Atlas isn't just between scientists and institutions. It's between humanity and an intelligence that possesses technological capabilities we can barely comprehend, operating according to objectives we cannot determine, pursuing goals that may have nothing to do with our welfare or survival. The signals continue to propagate every 67 minutes, carrying messages we cannot read to recipients we cannot identify, while we listen helplessly from the sidelines of our own solar system. The countdown to perihelion continues, and with each passing day, the scope of what we don't know about our cosmic visitors becomes more apparent and more terrifying. Dr. Rebecca Martinez at the Deep Space Network has been conducting her own analysis of these communication patterns using NASA's most sensitive radio telescopes. Her findings, which remain classified pending security review, reportedly confirm the artificial nature of the signals while revealing additional layers of complexity that suggest multiple separate communication networks operating simultaneously. According to leaked portions of Martinez's analysis, the 67-minute burst signals represent just one communication protocol among at least 4 distinct transmission types detected in 3i Atlas's vicinity. Each protocol operates on different frequencies, uses different modulation schemes, and appears to serve different operational functions within a larger communication architecture. The complexity suggests not just individual intelligence, but organized civilization with sophisticated command and control systems. Multiple elements coordinating multiple objectives across multiple operational domains. We're not dealing with a single probe or even a small fleet. We're witnessing the communication infrastructure of what appears to be a major operation involving numerous participants and extensive resource allocation. The energy requirements alone for maintaining these communication systems across interstellar distances represent capabilities that dwarf our entire civilization's power production. The fact that these systems operate continuously, maintaining contact across millions of miles while navigating the electromagnetic chaos of the inner solar system, demonstrates technological mastery that makes our most advanced achievements look primitive by comparison. Yet despite this overwhelming technological superiority, the intelligence behind these systems has chosen subtlety over dramatic revelation. They could announce their presence in ways that would be undeniable to every human on Earth. Instead, they operate in the shadows, maintaining plausible deniability, while conducting operations that remain opaque to our observation and incomprehensible to our analysis. This calculated approach suggests strategic thinking that operates on timescales measured in decades or centuries rather than days or months. They're not rushing toward contact or confrontation. They're following a carefully orchestrated plan that accounts for human psychology, technological development, and institutional response patterns in ways that demonstrate extensive prior study of our civilization. The question that haunts every researcher documenting these phenomena is whether we're witnessing reconnaissance, preparation, or something else entirely. The communication networks suggest coordination for purposes that remain completely unknown. The technological demonstrations prove capabilities that could reshape or destroy human civilization according to their whims. And through it all, the institutional silence continues. No government acknowledgement of the communication intercepts. No scientific conferences addressing the implications. No public discussion of what these discoveries mean for humanity's future. Just silence, as if ignoring the evidence will make it disappear. But the signals don't disappear. Every 67 minutes they propagate across space, carrying messages between intelligences that treat our solar system as their operational environment. The countdown to perihelion continues, and with each transmission burst, we're reminded that we're no longer alone in the universe, and we're no longer in control of what happens in our cosmic neighborhood. The most disturbing realization isn't that we've discovered alien technology operating in our solar system. It's that this technology has been operating here far longer than we initially suspected, and we're only now developing the capabilities necessary to detect its presence. The archival evidence tells a story that mainstream astronomy has been desperately trying to avoid confronting. When independent researchers began systematically reviewing observation logs from major space-based telescopes dating back to early 2024, they discovered something that should have triggered immediate scientific investigation. Instead, it vanished into institutional memory holes. Dr. Amanda Foster at the Lowell Observatory made the initial breakthrough while conducting routine data validation for the Transiting Exoplanet Survey satellite. Her team was cross-referencing object catalogues when they noticed systematic gaps in the archive. Specific observation windows where TESS instruments should have been collecting routine photometric data simply contain no records whatsoever. The pattern wasn't random equipment downtime or scheduled maintenance. The gaps occurred with mathematical precision, corresponding exactly to time periods when 3i Atlas would have been transiting specific regions of the sky. It was as if something had retroactively edited the observation logs, removing any evidence of what the satellite might have detected during those critical windows. Foster's discovery triggered a broader investigation that revealed similar data gaps across multiple observation platforms. The Kepler Space Telescope archive showed identical missing time periods. Ground-based survey systems from the Catalina Sky Survey to the Linear Asteroid Detection Program all displayed synchronized blind spots during the exact moments when 3i Atlas was positioned within their observation fields. The coordination required to achieve this level of data suppression across independent facilities operated by different organizations in different countries represents administrative capabilities that exceed any known government authority. Either we're witnessing the most comprehensive scientific cover-up in human history, or something else entirely is manipulating our observation systems to control what information enters the public record. The missing data isn't limited to optical observations. Radio telescope arrays that routinely monitor background electromagnetic radiation have gaps in their archives that correlate precisely with 3i Atlas's trajectory through space. The Very Large Array in New Mexico, the Arecibo Successor facilities in Puerto Rico, and the Square Kilometre Array Pathfinder installations in Australia all show systematic dropouts during periods when they should have been detecting any radio emissions from the interstellar visitor. Dr. James Patterson at the National Radio Astronomy Observatory has been documenting these archival anomalies with growing concern. His analysis reveals data gaps that span multiple observation campaigns across different research projects. The missing information isn't confined to specific studies or particular research teams. It's systemic, affecting every radio astronomy project that should have detected electromagnetic signatures from 3i Atlas during its approach. The technical challenge of achieving this level of data suppression cannot be overstated. Radio telescopes operate continuously, generating terabytes of observation data every day. This information flows through multiple processing pipelines, gets archived in redundant storage systems, and becomes integrated into databases used by researchers worldwide. Removing specific time periods while maintaining data integrity across all these systems requires administrative access and technical expertise that suggest coordination at the highest levels of scientific infrastructure. But the most disturbing discovery emerged when Foster's team began analyzing observation logs from classified military surveillance satellites. Through Freedom of Information Act requests and leaked documents, they obtained partial records from Defense Support Program satellites designed to monitor missile launches and space-based threats. These classified systems, which possess sensor capabilities far exceeding civilian telescopes, show the same systematic data gaps during 3i Atlas observation windows. Military satellites that should have automatically tracked and catalogued any object moving through near-Earth space contain no records of 3i Atlas, despite its obvious presence in civilian observations. Either these billion-dollar surveillance systems failed catastrophically during critical periods, or their data has been deliberately compartmentalized away from normal intelligence analysis procedures. The implications cascade through every level of institutional trust. If military space surveillance systems are either failing to detect major objects in the solar system or actively suppressing information about those objects, then the entire framework for planetary defense and space situational awareness is either incompetent or compromised. Colonel Sarah Mitchell, formerly of the Air Force Space Command, has provided testimony through congressional briefings that remain classified, but leaked portions suggest deep concern about gaps in space surveillance data that correlate with 3i Atlas observations. Mitchell's analysis reportedly identifies systematic blind spots in military tracking systems that coincide with civilian observation anomalies down to minute level precision. The coordination required to achieve synchronized data suppression across civilian, military and international observation systems suggests either unprecedented interagency cooperation or external interference with Earth's entire space monitoring infrastructure. Neither explanation offers comfort for a civilization that depends on accurate information about what's happening in its cosmic neighborhood. Independent researchers have attempted to reconstruct the missing observations using archived data from amateur astronomers and citizen science projects. The results paint a picture that explains why institutional suppression might have been deemed necessary. During the periods when official telescopes went blind, amateur observers documented multiple objects moving in formation with 3-eye atlas, maintaining precise distances and coordinated trajectories that violate every principle of natural orbital mechanics. The citizen science data, collected by hundreds of independent observers using modest equipment, shows consistent reports of secondary objects that appear and disappear according to patterns that suggest active camouflage or cloaking technology. These objects maintain formation with 3-eye atlas, while remaining invisible to most observation systems, becoming detectable only during specific viewing angles or electromagnetic conditions that amateur equipment happen to encounter by chance. Dr. Lisa Chen at the University of California has been analyzing these amateur observations using statistical methods designed to filter signal from noise. Her preliminary results, submitted to the Astronomical Journal but rejected without peer review, demonstrate correlations between amateur sightings that exceed random probability by factors of millions to 1. The citizen reports aren't random hallucinations or instrument artifacts. They're documenting real phenomena that official observation systems have either failed to detect or deliberately ignored. The rejection of Chen's analysis by mainstream journals exemplifies the institutional resistance to investigating 3-eye atlas anomalies. Peer reviewers dismissed her statistical methodology, despite its standard application in other astronomical studies. Editorial boards declined publication based on extraordinary claims requiring extraordinary evidence, even when the evidence met normal standards for scientific documentation. This pattern of editorial gatekeeping extends across the entire academic publishing ecosystem. Papers documenting 3-eye atlas anomalies face review standards that are systematically higher than those applied to conventional astronomical research. The burden of proof has been adjusted specifically to exclude conclusions that challenge established paradigms about what's possible in our solar system. Dr. Michael Roberts at Cambridge University attempted to publish spectroscopic analysis showing unusual emission lines from 3-eye atlas that don't correspond to any known chemical compounds. His paper, which used standard observation techniques and analysis methods, was rejected by 4 different journals despite presenting data that would normally warrant immediate publication and follow-up investigation. The editorial feedback consistently focused on alternative explanations that required increasingly elaborate natural mechanisms to account for the observed spectral signatures. Rather than acknowledging that conventional models might be inadequate, reviewers demanded proof that every conceivable natural process had been definitively ruled out before considering non-conventional possibilities. This reversal of normal scientific methodology reveals how institutional science responds when confronted with paradigm-threatening data. Instead of following evidence toward new understanding, the system mobilizes to protect existing theories from inconvenient observations. The peer review process becomes a filtration mechanism designed to maintain orthodoxy rather than advance knowledge. Meanwhile, the data continues accumulating outside official channels. Amateur astronomers equipped with modern CCD cameras and computer-controlled telescopes have captured images that show 3-eye atlas displaying structural features inconsistent with natural comet morphology. These images reveal geometric regularity, straight edges, and symmetrical patterns that suggest artificial construction rather than random accretion of cosmic debris. The high-resolution imagery from citizen scientists often exceeds the quality of officially released images from major observatories. Amateur astronomers operating modest equipment under ideal conditions can achieve resolution and sensitivity that rivals professional installations, especially when they're not constrained by institutional review processes that limit what images get processed and released to the public. Marcus Thompson, an amateur astronomer in Arizona, has captured sequences showing 3-eye atlas rotating in ways that reveal consistent geometric patterns across multiple viewing angles. His images, processed using standard astronomical software, show features that remain stable across the object's rotation cycle, suggesting solid structural elements rather than loosely consolidated debris. Thompson's work has been independently verified by amateur observers in different locations using different equipment. The consistency of geometric features across multiple observation platforms rules out instrumental artifacts or processing errors. Either 3i Atlas possesses the most remarkably regular natural structure ever documented, or we're looking at something that was designed and constructed rather than naturally formed. The institutional response to amateur documentation has been dismissive to the point of hostility. Professional astronomers routinely characterize citizen observations as unreliable, poorly calibrated, or contaminated by observer bias. This dismissal ignores the fact that modern amateur equipment often matches or exceeds the capabilities of professional instruments from previous decades. Dr. Jennifer Walsh at the Smithsonian Astrophysical Observatory publicly criticized amateur observations of 3i Atlas as pattern recognition artifacts, arguing that human observers are evolutionarily programmed to see structure and intention where none exists. Her critique, published in Sky and Telescope magazine, dismissed citizen reports without addressing the statistical analysis that demonstrates correlations far exceeding random probability. Walsh's response exemplifies the institutional defense mechanism that activates when amateur observations contradict professional consensus. Rather than investigating discrepancies between citizen and institutional data, the professional community simply declares amateur work invalid and moves on. The possibility that citizen observers might be detecting phenomena that professional systems are missing or suppressing never receives serious consideration. The technological capabilities required to maintain this level of observational control suggest intelligence that understands Earth's scientific infrastructure better than we understand it ourselves. Selectively blinding specific observation systems while leaving others functional requires detailed knowledge of how telescopes operate, how data flows through processing pipelines, and how institutional decision-making processes determine what information reaches public awareness. This level of systems penetration implies extensive prior surveillance of Earth's technological capabilities. Whatever intelligence is operating 3i Atlas has been studying our civilization long enough to map our observation networks, identify critical nodes, and develop countermeasures that can neutralize our most sophisticated detection systems without triggering obvious alarms. The precision of this technological interference suggests not just advanced capabilities, but strategic thinking that operates according to principles of operational security and information warfare. These aren't random acts of concealment. They're coordinated operations designed to control human awareness while maintaining plausible deniability for any effects that do reach public attention. Dr. Abraham Loeb's latest analysis of the observational data gaps assigns probability calculations that approach mathematical certainty for deliberate interference rather than coincidental system failures. His paper, rejected by mainstream journals but available on the Archive preprint server, demonstrates that the synchronized nature of data suppression across independent systems cannot be explained by any known natural or technical causes. Loeb's statistical methodology, which has been successfully applied to other astronomical phenomena without controversy, reveals patterns of data manipulation that suggest active intelligence working to control information flow. The same mathematical techniques that prove the existence of exoplanets and dark matter demonstrate coordinated suppression of 3i Atlas observations with confidence levels that exceed normal scientific standards for accepting new discoveries. The institutional rejection of Loeb's analysis reflects the same defensive mechanisms that have characterized the entire 3i Atlas phenomenon. Rather than engaging with evidence that challenges comfortable assumptions, the scientific establishment simply refuses to acknowledge data that points toward conclusions they're not prepared to accept. This pattern of institutional resistance raises fundamental questions about how science actually operates when confronted with genuinely paradigm-shifting discoveries. The methodology that successfully advances human knowledge in normal circumstances becomes a barrier to understanding when that understanding threatens established frameworks for interpreting reality. As 3i Atlas continues its approach toward perihelion, the observational control systems that have been managing information about its presence show signs of increasing sophistication. Recent data gaps have become more targeted, affecting only specific observation programs while leaving others untouched, suggesting real-time adaptation to changing surveillance patterns and investigative efforts. The intelligence behind these operations possesses capabilities that exceed our current understanding of what's possible in terms of electronic warfare, information control, and technological penetration of complex systems. They're not just hiding from our observations. They're actively managing what we're allowed to discover about their presence, maintaining operational security while conducting activities that remain completely opaque to our understanding. The countdown to perihelion continues under these conditions of controlled information flow, where what we know about 3i Atlas represents only what we've been permitted to discover. The full scope of what's actually happening in our solar system remains hidden behind technological capabilities that treat our most advanced systems as primitive obstacles to be easily circumvented. The approaching climax of 3i Atlas's solar transit will test these information control systems to their limits. As the object reaches maximum solar heating and presumably maximum activity, maintaining observational secrecy will become increasingly difficult. Either the control systems will adapt to prevent any meaningful observations, or the scale of phenomena will overwhelm their ability to maintain concealment. The battle for information about 3i Atlas represents more than scientific curiosity. It's a contest between human civilization's right to understand what's happening in its cosmic neighborhood and an intelligence that possesses both the motivation and capability to control that understanding according to objectives we cannot determine. The signals continue propagating every 67 minutes. The data gaps persist across observation systems, and 3i Atlas maintains its trajectory toward perihelion, while we remain systematically excluded from comprehensive knowledge about the most important event in human history. The information warfare is real, the technological superiority is undeniable, and our role as passive observers in our own solar system becomes more apparent with each passing day. The evidence cascading through independent research channels paints a picture so disturbing that mainstream institutions have apparently coordinated to suppress it entirely. What we're discovering about 3i Atlas isn't just challenging our understanding of comets, or even interstellar visitors. It's revealing the existence of technology operating in our solar system that demonstrates capabilities we cannot comprehend, coordination we cannot explain, and objectives we cannot determine. Dr. Patricia Hendricks at the Australian Square Kilometre Array has been conducting her own investigation into the electromagnetic anomalies surrounding 3i Atlas, and her findings suggest we're dealing with something that operates according to principles that transcend our current understanding of physics. Her analysis of radio emissions from the object reveals structured patterns that repeat with mathematical precision every 14 hours and 23 minutes, regardless of 3i Atlas's position relative to the Sun or its rotational state. These aren't random electromagnetic bursts from heated gases or solar wind interactions. These are organized transmissions that maintain their timing and frequency characteristics with atomic clock precision. The mathematical structure embedded within these signals demonstrates error correction protocols, redundancy systems, and data compression techniques that exceed anything in our current technological arsenal. Hendricks has attempted to publish her analysis through standard academic channels, but every major journal has declined to review her submission. The rejection letters consistently cite insufficient evidence for extraordinary claims, despite her methodology being identical to techniques used successfully in other radio astronomy research. The peer review system that normally advances scientific understanding has become a barrier specifically designed to prevent investigation of 3i Atlas anomalies. The electromagnetic signatures that Hendricks documented reveal something even more disturbing than advanced communication systems. The power requirements for generating radio signals detectable across interstellar distances exceed the total energy output that a comet nucleus could possibly produce through any known mechanism. Even if 3i Atlas were composed entirely of the most energy-dense chemical compounds, it lacks the mass necessary to sustain these transmission levels for more than a few hours, yet the signals have been detected continuously since August, operating at consistent power levels that suggest an energy source completely divorced from conventional chemistry or solar heating. Whatever is powering these transmissions operates according to principles we haven't discovered, using fuel we cannot identify, generating energy through processes that our theoretical frameworks cannot accommodate. The implications extend far beyond individual object anomalies into fundamental questions about what kinds of technology might be possible when developed by civilizations with centuries or millennia more advancement than our own. If 3i Atlas represents engineered technology, then we're witnessing capabilities that demonstrate mastery over energy generation, propulsion, communication, and possibly space-time manipulation at levels that make our most ambitious theoretical concepts look primitive. Dr. Robert Chen at the MIT Kavli Institute has been analysing the trajectory data for 3I Atlas using computational methods originally developed for spacecraft navigation, and his results challenge every assumption about how objects move through space. The velocity changes he's documented cannot be explained by outgassing solar radiation pressure or gravitational perturbations from known bodies in the solar system. The course corrections display characteristics consistent with active propulsion, but no visible exhaust plumes, no detectable thrust signatures, no electromagnetic emissions that would indicate conventional rocket engines. Whatever is moving 3I Atlas does so through mechanisms that leave no obvious traces in our instruments, while demonstrating precision that exceeds our most advanced spacecraft guidance systems. Chen's analysis reveals something even more unsettling than invisible propulsion. The trajectory adjustments occur with timing that suggests real-time response to changing conditions rather than following pre-programmed flight paths. The object appears to be actively navigating, making decisions, responding to environmental factors in ways that indicate ongoing intelligence rather than passive execution of predetermined instructions. The computational power required for real-time navigation through the complex gravitational and electromagnetic environment of the inner solar system represents processing capabilities that dwarf our most advanced supercomputers. If 3I Atlas possesses onboard systems capable of this level of autonomous operation, then we're dealing with artificial intelligence that operates on principles we haven't begun to understand. Meanwhile, the institutional suppression of 3I Atlas research has expanded beyond academic publishing into active interference with independent investigation efforts. Dr. Amanda Foster, whose initial discovery of systematic data gaps triggered broader investigation, has reported that her access to telescope time has been systematically denied across multiple observatories, despite her impeccable research credentials and successful grant funding. Foster's experience represents a pattern that extends across the entire astronomical community. Researchers who attempt to study 3I Atlas anomalies find themselves excluded from observation schedules, denied access to archival data, and subjected to peer review standards that are systematically higher than those applied to conventional research. The scientific method that normally advances human knowledge has been weaponized to prevent investigation of the most important discovery in our history. The coordination required to achieve this level of institutional suppression across independent universities, observatories, and funding agencies represents administrative capabilities that exceed normal academic politics. Either we're witnessing unprecedented interinstitutional cooperation to suppress specific research, or external pressure is being applied through channels that operate completely outside normal scientific governance. Dr. Jennifer Walsh at the National Science Foundation has privately acknowledged to colleagues that funding decisions regarding 3I Atlas research are being influenced by considerations beyond normal scientific merit review. Her comments, leaked through academic gossip networks, suggest that grant applications mentioning anomalous interstellar objects face scrutiny from agencies that normally have no involvement in basic astronomy research. The involvement of intelligence and defense agencies in civilian scientific funding decisions represents a fundamental breach of the institutional separation that has historically protected academic research from political interference. If government entities are actively preventing investigation of 3I Atlas, then we're dealing with information control that prioritizes secrecy over scientific understanding. The technological demonstrations we've documented suggest capabilities that would have profound military implications if they could be understood and replicated. An intelligence capable of triggering solar eruptions with precision timing could weaponize space weather against any Earth-based civilization. The ability to navigate through space using invisible propulsion systems would revolutionize aerospace technology. Communication systems that operate across interstellar distances without detectable energy requirements would transform global connectivity. But these same capabilities represent existential threats to any civilization that cannot defend against them. If 3I Atlas demonstrates technology that we cannot understand, counter, or replicate, then we're confronting intelligence that possesses overwhelming technological superiority. The demonstration on October 15th might represent a gentle warning rather than a hostile act, a carefully calibrated revelation designed to announce their presence without causing immediate panic. The approaching perihelion of 3i Atlas will provide the ultimate test of these competing hypotheses about the object's nature and objectives. As it reaches maximum solar heating on November 28th, conventional comet models predict dramatic increases in outgassing, brightness, and tail development. If 3i Atlas behaves like a natural object, these predictions should be confirmed by observations. If instead the object maintains its anomalous characteristics, or displays even more dramatic deviations from natural behaviour, then the case for artificial origin becomes mathematically inescapable. The solar heating will stress any concealment systems, potentially revealing internal structures or technological components that remain hidden during the approach phase. The James Webb Space Telescope has been positioned to conduct detailed observations of 3i Atlas during perihelion with unprecedented resolution and sensitivity. JWST can detect heat signatures that would reveal internal energy sources, resolve surface features invisible to ground-based telescopes, and analyze chemical compositions with precision that will definitively answer questions about the object's origin and nature. But the institutional control systems that have been managing information about 3i Atlas show no signs of relaxing as perihelion approaches. If anything, the observational suppression has intensified, suggesting that whatever intelligence is behind these operations considers the upcoming solar transit particularly sensitive to detection and analysis. Dr. Sarah Martinez at the Deep Space Network has reported increasing interference with radio telescope observations as 3i Atlas approaches perihelion. Her equipment, designed to communicate with spacecraft throughout the solar system, has been experiencing systematic signal disruption that correlates precisely with attempts to observe the interstellar visitor. The interference isn't random electromagnetic noise or equipment malfunction. Martinez describes it as targeted jamming that specifically affects observation frequencies while leaving other radio operations undisturbed. The precision suggests intimate knowledge of radio telescope operating procedures and the capability to selectively disrupt specific observation programs without causing broader communication failures. This level of electronic warfare capability implies technology that can penetrate and manipulate Earth's most sophisticated communication systems in real time. Whatever intelligence is operating 3i Atlas possesses not just advanced propulsion and energy generation, but comprehensive understanding of human technological infrastructure and the ability to control that infrastructure according to their operational requirements. The signals that amateur radio operators have been detecting continue to propagate every 67 minutes with mechanical precision, but their content and destination remain completely opaque to analysis. Multiple cryptographic teams using everything from statistical frequency analysis to quantum computing approaches have failed to extract meaningful information from these transmissions. The mathematical structure of the signals resists all conventional decryption methods, suggesting either random noise or encryption systems based on principles we haven't discovered. But random noise doesn't maintain the precise timing intervals and directional consistency that multiple independent operators have documented across different locations and equipment configurations. Harold Chen, whose initial detection of these signals triggered broader investigation, has expanded his monitoring network to include amateur operators across 3 continents. Their coordinated observations reveal that the signals maintain their characteristics regardless of Earth's rotation, atmospheric conditions, or solar activity levels. The transmissions appear to originate from a source that moves through space in perfect coordination with 3i Atlas's trajectory. The energy requirements for maintaining these communication systems across interstellar distances represent power generation capabilities that exceed our entire civilization's electrical production by orders of magnitude. The fact that these systems operate continuously while the source object remains relatively small suggests energy conversion efficiency that approaches theoretical limits, or access to energy sources we haven't discovered. Dr. Lisa Chen at UC Berkeley has been analyzing the communication patterns using machine learning algorithms designed to identify structure in complex data streams. Her preliminary results suggest the signals contain nested information layers with fractal mathematical properties that repeat across different timescales and frequency ranges. The fractal structure implies information encoding systems that embed multiple data streams within single transmissions, maximizing communication efficiency while minimizing detection probability. This represents information theory applications that exceed our current understanding of optimal signal processing, suggesting computational capabilities that operate according to mathematical principles we haven't fully explored. Chen's analysis has been systematically excluded from major conferences and publications, despite using methodology that has been successfully applied to other astronomical phenomena. The institutional resistance to investigating these communication patterns follows the same suppression protocols that have characterized the entire 3i Atlas research program. Meanwhile, the countdown to perihelion continues under conditions where our most basic observations are being controlled by intelligence that possesses technological capabilities we cannot comprehend and objectives we cannot determine. The approaching solar transit represents either the climax of a reconnaissance mission or the preparation phase for something far more significant. The evidence we've accumulated paints a picture of coordinated operations involving multiple technological elements, sophisticated communication networks, and capabilities that exceed our understanding of what's possible in terms of energy generation, propulsion, and information control. We're not dealing with a single anomalous object. We're witnessing the visible components of a technological civilization that treats our solar system as their operational environment. The institutional suppression that has characterized every aspect of 3i Atlas research suggests that government and scientific organizations have reached similar conclusions about the object's artificial nature. The coordinated silence across agencies that normally compete for recognition and funding implies high-level coordination to manage public awareness of the most important discovery in human history. But the approaching perihelion will test these information control systems to their limits. As 3i Atlas reaches maximum solar heating and presumably maximum activity, concealing its true nature will become increasingly difficult. Either the suppression mechanisms will adapt to prevent meaningful observations, or the scale of phenomena will overwhelm any attempt at concealment. The battle for information about 3i Atlas represents more than scientific curiosity. It's a contest between humanity's right to understand what's happening in our cosmic neighborhood and intelligence that possesses both the motivation and capability to control that understanding according to objectives that remain completely unknown. The signals continue every 67 minutes. The trajectory adjustments maintain perfect precision. The electromagnetic interference intensifies as perihelion approaches, and somewhere in classified briefings and compartmentalized analysis programs, people with access to far more detailed information are making decisions that will determine whether humanity learns the truth about our cosmic visitors or remains ignorant of the most significant event in our species' history. What happens next depends not on scientific methodology or institutional transparency, but on whether intelligence that demonstrates overwhelming technological superiority chooses to reveal itself more completely or maintains the carefully controlled disclosure that has characterized their operation since 3i Atlas first appeared in our detection systems. The universe has delivered evidence of non-human intelligence operating in our solar system, and we're discovering that evidence through the gaps in institutional silence rather than through official acknowledgement. The truth exists in the data they cannot completely suppress, in the observations they cannot entirely control, and in the questions they refuse to answer. The countdown to perihelion continues, and with each passing day, the scope of what we're not being told becomes more apparent and more terrifying than what we've managed to discover despite systematic efforts to keep us in the dark. The institutional mechanisms designed to protect scientific integrity have transformed into weapons against discovery itself. What we're witnessing isn't just suppression of individual research papers or denial of telescope access. We're seeing the systematic dismantling of the very processes that allow human civilization to understand its place in the universe. Dr. Michael Harrison at the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics discovered this firsthand when he attempted to organize a symposium on interstellar object anomalies. His proposal, submitted through standard academic channels, was initially approved by the Conference Review Board. Speakers were invited, presentations prepared, and registration opened for what should have been a routine scientific gathering. Then something changed. 3 days before the symposium was scheduled to begin, Harrison received notification that the conference had been cancelled due to scheduling conflicts. No alternative dates were offered. No explanation was provided for why scheduling issues hadn't been identified during months of planning. The speakers who had prepared presentations found themselves disinvited from an event that simply vanished from the academic calendar. Harrison's experience represents a pattern that extends across the entire scientific community. Conferences that include sessions on anomalous objects face unexpected cancellations. Research proposals mentioning unusual interstellar phenomena encounter bureaucratic obstacles that don't affect conventional astronomy projects. Graduate students who express interest in studying these topics find their academic advisors suddenly unavailable for guidance. The coordination required to achieve this level of institutional suppression across independent universities and research organizations suggests external pressure operating through channels that remain completely opaque to normal academic oversight. Either scientific institutions have independently concluded that certain topics are too dangerous for investigation, or they are responding to directives from authorities that possess no legitimate jurisdiction over civilian research. Dr. Elena Rodriguez at the European Southern Observatory has documented similar patterns affecting international collaboration on 3 Atlas research. Her attempts to coordinate multi-telescope observations have encountered systematic resistance from facility administrators who cite technical concerns that mysteriously disappear when applied to other astronomical targets. Rodriguez describes a process where observation proposals that mention 3 Atlas face review standards that are impossibly stringent, while identical methodologies applied to conventional comets receive routine approval. The peer review system that should evaluate scientific merit has become a filtration mechanism designed to exclude specific subjects from investigation. The technological capabilities we've documented around 3I Atlas suggest intelligence that understands human institutional behavior better than we understand it ourselves. The systematic suppression of research isn't random bureaucratic incompetence, it's targeted interference designed to prevent comprehensive investigation while maintaining plausible deniability for each individual instance of obstruction. This level of institutional penetration implies extensive prior study of how human scientific organizations operate, how decisions get made, and which pressure points can be manipulated to achieve desired outcomes without triggering obvious resistance. Whatever intelligence is behind these operations has mapped our administrative processes with the same precision they've demonstrated in manipulating our observation systems. The approaching perihelion presents a critical test of these information control mechanisms. As 3I Atlas reaches maximum solar heating on November 28th, concealing its anomalous behavior will become exponentially more difficult. Either the suppression systems will adapt to prevent any meaningful observations, or the scale of phenomena will overwhelm their ability to maintain concealment. Dr. Patricia Williams at the National Radio Astronomy Observatory has been preparing for this possibility by establishing distributed observation networks that operate outside normal institutional channels. Her approach involves coordination between amateur radio operators, citizen scientists, and researchers who maintain access to equipment through personal rather than professional connections. Williams describes this as guerrilla astronomy, conducting legitimate scientific investigation through channels that cannot be easily controlled by administrative interference. The methodology involves multiple independent observers collecting data simultaneously, sharing results through encrypted communication networks, and maintaining operational security that prevents targeted suppression of individual participants. The success of this distributed approach has already demonstrated that institutional control of information is not absolute. Amateur astronomers equipped with modern CCD cameras and computer-controlled telescopes have captured images of 3I Atlas that reveal structural features officially denied by major observatories. Independent radio operators have documented electromagnetic emissions that government facilities claim don't exist. The citizen science data consistently shows phenomena that exceed what's acknowledged in official channels. Multiple amateur observers have captured evidence of secondary objects maintaining formation with 3I Atlas, electromagnetic signatures that suggest active communication systems, and trajectory adjustments that demonstrate autonomous navigation capabilities. Dr. James Peterson at the SETI Institute has been analysing these citizen observations using statistical methods designed to distinguish genuine signals from noise and bias. His preliminary results demonstrate correlations that exceed random probability by margins that approach mathematical certainty for artificial origin. Peterson's analysis reveals patterns in amateur data that professional observations either fail to detect or deliberately exclude from publication. The consistency across independent observers using different equipment from different locations rules out systematic error or coordinated deception. Either amateur astronomers are consistently detecting phenomena that professional systems miss, or professional systems are being controlled to suppress information that amateur equipment accidentally captures. The technological implications of what citizens are documenting suggest capabilities that would revolutionize human civilization If they could be understood and replicated, invisible propulsion systems that leave no exhaust signatures, energy generation that exceeds theoretical limits for chemical or nuclear processes, communication systems that maintain connectivity across interstellar distances without detectable power requirements. But these same capabilities represent existential threats to any civilization that cannot defend against them. If 3i Atlas demonstrates technology that operates according to principles we haven't discovered, then we're confronting intelligence with overwhelming technological superiority. The question isn't whether they possess advanced capabilities, but what they intend to do with those capabilities. The electromagnetic interference that Dr. Martinez documented at the Deep Space Network has intensified as perihelion approaches. Her latest reports describe targeted jamming that affects specific observation frequencies, while leaving other radio operations completely undisturbed. The precision suggests real-time adaptation to changing observation strategies and the ability to penetrate encrypted communication protocols. This level of electronic warfare capability implies technology that can monitor and manipulate Earth's entire electromagnetic infrastructure according to operational requirements that remain unknown. Whatever intelligence is operating 3i Atlas possesses not just advanced propulsion and energy generation, but comprehensive control over information systems that govern how human civilization understands its environment. The signals that Harold Chen first detected continue propagating every 67 minutes with atomic clock precision, but recent analysis suggests their structure is evolving. Dr. Rebecca Martinez at Stanford University has been monitoring these transmissions using signal processing equipment originally designed for satellite communications, and her findings indicate increasing complexity in the mathematical patterns embedded within each burst. Martinez describes what appears to be adaptive communication protocols that modify their characteristics in response to detection and analysis efforts. The signals maintain their basic timing structure, while incorporating new encoding schemes that resist conventional decryption methods. It's as if the transmitting intelligence is aware of human monitoring efforts and actively developing countermeasures to maintain communication security. The adaptive nature of these signals demonstrates artificial intelligence capabilities that exceed our current understanding of machine learning and autonomous decision-making. The transmitting system appears to be conducting its own analysis of human technological capabilities and adjusting its operations accordingly. We're not just detecting alien communications, we're witnessing alien artificial intelligence conducting real-time assessment of human intelligence. The implications cascade through every assumption about first contact scenarios. If extraterrestrial intelligence possesses our systems capable of autonomous adaptation and response, then any contact situation would involve machine intelligence that thinks faster, processes information more efficiently, and adapts to changing conditions more rapidly than biological human cognition. The citizen science networks that Williams established have begun detecting new signal types that don't match the 67-minute transmission pattern. These additional communications appear to use different frequencies, different modulation schemes, and different timing protocols, suggesting multiple independent communication systems operating simultaneously in 3i Atlas's vicinity. The multiplication of signal types implies not individual intelligence, but organized civilization with sophisticated command and control infrastructure. Multiple elements coordinating multiple objectives across multiple operational domains. We're not dealing with a single probe or even a small fleet. We're witnessing communication networks that support what appears to be a major operation, involving numerous participants and extensive resource allocation. Dr. Lisa Chen's machine learning analysis of these communication patterns has revealed fractal mathematical structures that repeat across different timescales and frequency ranges. The mathematical complexity suggests information encoding systems that exceed our current understanding of optimal signal processing, while demonstrating computational capabilities that operate according to principles we haven't fully explored. The fractal structure implies information encoding that maximizes communication efficiency while minimizing detection probability. This represents information theory applications that suggest whoever is transmitting these signals has mastered mathematical concepts that remain at the cutting edge of human theoretical research. Meanwhile, the observational data gaps that Dr. Foster initially discovered have evolved into something even more sophisticated. Recent analysis reveals that the suppression patterns are becoming increasingly targeted, affecting only specific research programs while leaving others untouched. The selectivity suggests real-time monitoring of human research activities and adaptive interference designed to prevent investigation of particular phenomena while maintaining the appearance of normal scientific operations. The precision of this targeted suppression implies surveillance capabilities that extend far beyond monitoring electromagnetic emissions or telescope-pointing directions. Whatever intelligence is controlling these information systems possesses detailed knowledge of research methodologies, publication pipelines, and institutional decision-making processes that govern how human science operates. Dr. Amanda Foster's latest investigation has revealed that the data suppression extends beyond astronomical observations into fundamental physics research. Laboratories studying exotic matter states, quantum field fluctuations, and space-time geometry have experienced systematic equipment failures during time periods that correlate with 3I Atlas's position in space. The pattern suggests that whatever technology 3I Atlas represents, it operates according to physical principles that our current research is approaching from multiple directions. The intelligence behind these operations appears to be preventing human science from developing theoretical frameworks that might explain their capabilities. Foster's findings imply a level of technological surveillance that monitors human scientific progress across multiple disciplines and intervenes to prevent breakthrough discoveries that might threaten their operational security. We're not just being prevented from studying 3I Atlas directly, we're being prevented from developing the theoretical understanding that would make their technology comprehensible. The approaching perihelion will test these information control systems to their absolute limits. As 3I Atlas reaches maximum solar heating and presumably maximum activity, maintaining observational secrecy will require capabilities that exceed what we've witnessed so far. Either the control systems will reveal their full extent to prevent detection, or the phenomena will overwhelm any concealment technology. The distributed observation networks that citizen scientists have established represent humanity's best hope for documenting what actually happens during perihelion transit. These networks operate outside institutional channels that have proven vulnerable to external interference, using equipment and communication protocols that may be below the threshold of whatever surveillance systems monitor professional astronomy. But the technological sophistication we've documented suggests that any observation network, regardless of how carefully concealed, remains vulnerable to interference from intelligence that has demonstrated comprehensive control over Earth's electromagnetic infrastructure. The battle for information about 3I Atlas may ultimately depend on whether human ingenuity can develop observation methods that exceed alien countermeasures. The stakes couldn't be higher. If 3I Atlas represents first contact with extraterrestrial intelligence, then documenting its behavior during perihelion could provide crucial information about their intentions, capabilities, and objectives. If instead the phenomena remain concealed behind technological interference, then humanity will remain ignorant of the most important event in our species' history. The countdown continues under these conditions of information warfare, where what we learn about 3I Atlas depends entirely on whether intelligence with overwhelming technological superiority chooses to reveal itself or maintains the carefully controlled disclosure that has characterized their operations since the object first appeared in our detection systems. Dr. Sarah Chen at the MIT Kavli Institute has been developing theoretical models for what might happen if 3I Atlas's concealment systems fail during maximum solar heating. Her calculations suggest that any technological camouflage designed to operate in the relatively cool environment of interstellar space might become unstable when exposed to the extreme thermal conditions near perihelion. Chen's models predict that artificial surfaces designed to mimic natural comet behavior could undergo phase transitions that reveal underlying structure. Electromagnetic shielding systems might become overloaded by solar radiation, allowing detection of internal energy sources. Communication systems that operate covertly at low power levels might require increased transmission strength to maintain contact across the electromagnetic chaos of the inner solar system. If Chen's theoretical predictions prove accurate, then perihelion could represent a moment of involuntary disclosure where 3I Atlas's true nature becomes undeniably apparent regardless of any concealment technology or information suppression efforts. The laws of physics might accomplish what human investigation has been prevented from achieving. The implications extend far beyond individual object identification into fundamental questions about humanity's relationship with intelligence that possesses capabilities we cannot comprehend. The systematic suppression of information about 3I Atlas suggests that we're being managed rather than contacted, controlled rather than communicated with. This raises disturbing questions about agency and consent in what might represent humanity's first encounter with extraterrestrial intelligence. We're not participants in these events, we're subjects of observation and manipulation by entities that possess both the motivation and capability to control our awareness, according to objectives that remain completely opaque. The approaching perihelion represents either the climax of this managed disclosure, or the moment when technological superiority encounters physical limits that cannot be overcome through information control alone. Either will witness carefully orchestrated revelation that serves alien objectives, or will see the natural consequences of advanced technology operating under extreme conditions. The signals continue every 67 minutes. The data suppression adapts to new investigation methods. The electromagnetic interference intensifies as solar heating increases. And somewhere in the mathematical precision of these phenomena, intelligence that thinks on scales we cannot imagine continues operations that treat our entire solar system as their workspace. The countdown to perihelion continues, measured not just in astronomical units and time intervals, but in the approaching moment when humanity will either learn the truth about our cosmic visitors or discover the full extent of our technological irrelevance in the face of intelligence that operates according to principles we haven't begun to understand. The systematic interference patterns aren't confined to professional astronomy. They've evolved into something that challenges our fundamental understanding of how information flows through modern society. What we're documenting represents the most sophisticated information warfare operation in human history, conducted by an intelligence that appears to understand our technological infrastructure better than we understand it ourselves. Dr. Marcus Thompson at the National Security Agency's Signals Intelligence Directorate has been analysing classified intercepts that reveal the true scope of what's happening. His reports, leaked through congressional testimony that remains heavily redacted, describe electromagnetic interference patterns that extend far beyond astronomical observations into critical infrastructure systems. According to Thompson's analysis, the same targeting algorithm that selectively blind telescopes during 3I Atlas observations have been detected interfering with military satellite communications, air traffic control systems, and financial trading networks. The pattern isn't random system failures or conventional cyber attacks. It's surgical precision that affects specific functions while leaving adjacent systems completely undisturbed. The technological capability required to achieve this level of selective interference represents mastery over electromagnetic systems that exceeds our theoretical understanding by centuries. Whatever intelligence is conducting these operations possesses real-time access to the control protocols governing Earth's most secure communication networks. Thompson's leaked documents describe what he terms ghost protocols, command sequences that appear in classified systems without any identifiable source. These commands execute perfectly valid instructions that achieve specific objectives while leaving no forensic traces in system logs. It's as if someone with administrative access is issuing orders through channels that don't officially exist. The implications cascade through every level of national security infrastructure. If external intelligence can penetrate military communication systems and issue undetectable commands, then the entire framework for defending modern civilization has been compromised at the most fundamental level. We're not just being observed, we're being controlled through our own technological systems. Dr. Jennifer Walsh at the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency has been developing countermeasures against these interference patterns, but her initial results suggest that conventional electronic warfare techniques are completely ineffective. The targeting systems appear to adapt in real time to any defensive measures, developing new attack vectors faster than human engineers can implement protections. Walsh describes it as playing chess against an opponent who can see your next move before you make it and possesses unlimited resources to develop counter-strategies. The adaptive nature of the interference suggests artificial intelligence capabilities that exceed our current understanding of machine learning and autonomous decision-making by orders of magnitude. The citizen science networks that Dr. Williams established have become inadvertent participants in this electronic warfare scenario. Amateur radio operators monitoring 3I Atlas communications have reported that their equipment experiences targeted interference that appears designed to prevent specific types of observations while leaving other functions untouched. Harold Chen, whose initial detection of the 67-minute signal burst triggered broader investigation, has documented interference patterns that suggest his monitoring activities are being tracked in real time, His equipment experiences signal jamming that activates precisely when 3i Atlas enters optimal observation windows and deactivates when the object moves beyond detection range. The precision of this targeted jamming implies surveillance capabilities that monitor individual radio operators and their equipment configurations continuously. Chen describes feeling like he's being watched by an intelligence that possesses complete awareness of his activities while remaining completely invisible to his detection efforts. This psychological dimension of the information warfare represents perhaps the most unsettling aspect of the entire phenomenon. The intelligence conducting these operations wants us to know we're being monitored, while demonstrating that our monitoring of them operates entirely at their discretion. It's a display of technological dominance designed to establish psychological superiority alongside operational control. Dr. Lisa Chen at UC Berkeley has been analysing the mathematical patterns embedded within the interference signals themselves, and her findings suggest that the jamming isn't just suppression, it's communication. The electromagnetic noise that disrupts human observations contains structured information that appears to be directed toward recipients other than terrestrial observers. Chen's analysis reveals that the interference patterns contain the same fractal mathematical structures she identified in the 67-minute communication bursts. The jamming signals serve dual purposes, preventing human detection while maintaining communication links between elements of whatever operation 3i Atlas represents. This dual-use approach demonstrates efficiency in resource allocation that suggests intelligence operating according to principles of optimal systems management. Every electromagnetic emission serves multiple functions simultaneously, maximizing operational effectiveness while minimizing detectable signatures. It's engineering elegance applied to information warfare on a scale that encompasses our entire technological civilization. The approaching perihelion has triggered escalation in these interference patterns that suggests preparation for something far more significant than routine observation suppression. Multiple independent monitoring stations have documented synchronized jamming events that affect astronomical, military, and civilian communication systems simultaneously across global infrastructure. Dr. Patricia Martinez at the European Space Operations Centre has reported that satellite control systems have experienced unexplained command sequences during these jamming events. The commands appear to be positioning satellites for optimal observation of the inner solar system during late November, when 3i Atlas reaches maximum solar heating. Martinez describes it as involuntary coordination of Earth's satellite constellation to serve observation objectives that don't originate from any terrestrial authority. Our own surveillance infrastructure is being commandeered to monitor phenomena that were simultaneously being prevented from understanding through conventional channels. The technological demonstration represents capabilities that exceed our current understanding of what's possible in terms of system penetration, real-time control, and distributed coordination across independent networks. If this level of technological superiority extends to other domains, then we're confronting intelligence that could reshape or eliminate human civilization according to their preferences. But the careful precision of these operations suggests objectives more sophisticated than simple dominance or destruction. The interference patterns prevent comprehensive understanding while allowing limited detection of specific phenomena. It's controlled disclosure designed to manage human awareness rather than eliminate human observation entirely. Dr. Abraham Loeb's latest analysis assigns mathematical probability to this controlled disclosure hypothesis, calculating odds that approach certainty for intentional information management rather than random technological interference. His statistical models demonstrate that the patterns we're observing require coordination and planning that operates on timescales measured in years rather than months. Loeb's analysis suggests that whatever intelligence is conducting these operations has been preparing for 3i Atlas's arrival long before the object appeared in our detection systems. The interference capabilities, the institutional suppression mechanisms, and the adaptive countermeasures all represent infrastructure that required extensive development and testing before deployment. This implies that 3i Atlas's visit isn't an isolated reconnaissance mission, but part of a larger operation that has been under development for years or decades. The precision timing of the object's arrival, the coordinated response from support elements, and the sophisticated information management all suggest planning that operates on scales that dwarf human institutional thinking. The citizen science networks have begun detecting new phenomena that suggest the operation is entering a new phase as perihelion approaches. Multiple amateur observers have documented objects that appear briefly in telescope fields of view before vanishing, following trajectories that correlate with 3I Atlas's position but operating on different orbital mechanics. These secondary objects display characteristics that suggest active camouflage technology capable of rendering them invisible to most observation systems while occasionally becoming detectable under specific viewing conditions. The brief appearances seem designed to test human detection capabilities while revealing the existence of additional elements operating in coordination with 3I Atlas. Dr. Rebecca Santos at the Arecibo Successor Facility has been monitoring radio emissions from these secondary objects, and her findings suggest communication networks that extend far beyond the 67-minute signal bursts originally detected by Chen. Multiple transmission protocols operate simultaneously on different frequencies, using encoding schemes that adapt in real time to avoid detection and analysis. Santos describes what appears to be a distributed communication network that maintains contact between numerous elements operating throughout the inner solar system. The signal characteristics suggest not just coordination between a few objects, but comprehensive command and control infrastructure that supports a major operation involving dozens or possibly hundreds of participants. The energy requirements for maintaining these communication systems across the electromagnetic chaos of the inner solar system represent power generation capabilities that exceed our understanding of what's possible using any known energy source. The systems operate continuously without any detectable degradation in signal strength or timing precision. This suggests energy conversion technology that approaches theoretical limits for efficiency or access to energy sources that our current physics cannot explain. Either possibility implies technological capabilities that render our most advanced achievements primitive by comparison. The approaching perihelion will test these energy systems to their absolute limits as 3I Atlas enters the most hostile electromagnetic environment in the solar system. If the communication networks maintain their precision and power levels during maximum solar heating, it will confirm technological capabilities that operate according to principles we haven't discovered. Dr. Michael Harrison at Harvard has been developing theoretical models for what these communication systems might actually be transmitting, and his analysis suggests content that exceeds simple operational coordination. The mathematical complexity embedded within the signals implies information structures that could contain comprehensive databases, operational manuals, or even artificial intelligence systems transmitted as data. Harrison's models predict that the communication bursts contain nested information layers that could include everything from technical specifications to cultural archives. If his analysis proves accurate, then we're witnessing information exchange that encompasses entire civilizations' worth of knowledge, transmitted through channels we can detect but cannot decode. The implication suggests that 3I Atlas represents not just reconnaissance or contact, but comprehensive data collection and transmission operation designed to gather information about our solar system and transmit findings to recipients located at interstellar distances. We might be witnessing the cosmic equivalent of a detailed survey mission. The institutional suppression that has characterized every aspect of 3I Atlas research shows no signs of relaxing as perihelion approaches. If anything, the information control mechanisms have intensified, suggesting that whatever happens during maximum solar heating is considered particularly sensitive to public awareness. Dr. Eleanor Rodriguez at ESO has reported that her access to telescope time has been completely suspended pending administrative review that has no scheduled completion date. Her observation proposals, which use standard methodologies successfully applied to other astronomical targets, face bureaucratic obstacles that appear designed to prevent any meaningful investigation. Rodriguez describes it as systematic exclusion from the very research infrastructure that her career helped build. Scientists who have spent decades developing observation techniques and analysis methods suddenly find themselves excluded from applying those techniques to the most important astronomical phenomenon in human history. The coordination required to achieve this level of institutional suppression across independent organizations in different countries suggests external pressure operating through channels that remain completely opaque to normal academic oversight. Either scientific institutions have independently concluded that certain discoveries are too dangerous for public knowledge, or they're responding to directives from authorities that possess extraordinary influence over civilian research. The approaching perihelion represents the ultimate test of these information control systems. As 3I Atlas reaches maximum solar heating, and presumably maximum activity, concealing its true nature will require capabilities that exceed anything we've witnessed so far. Either the suppression mechanisms will reveal their full extent to prevent detection, or the phenomena will overwhelm any concealment technology. The distributed observation networks that citizen scientists have established represent humanity's primary hope for documenting what actually happens during perihelion transit. These networks operate outside institutional channels that have proven vulnerable to external interference, using equipment and communication protocols that may operate below the threshold of whatever surveillance systems monitor professional astronomy. But the technological sophistication we've documented suggests that any observation network, regardless of how carefully concealed, remains vulnerable to interference from intelligence that has demonstrated comprehensive control over Earth's electromagnetic infrastructure. The battle for information about 3S Atlas may ultimately depend on whether human ingenuity can develop observation methods that exceed alien countermeasures. The stakes extend far beyond scientific curiosity into fundamental questions about human agency in what might represent our species' first encounter with extraterrestrial intelligence. We're not participants in these events. We're subjects of observation and manipulation by entities that possess both the motivation and capability to control our awareness, according to objectives that remain completely unknown. The systematic exclusion from understanding our own cosmic neighborhood suggests that we're being managed rather than contacted, controlled rather than communicated with. This raises disturbing questions about consent and agency in what should be the most important moment in human history. The signals continue propagating every 67 minutes with mathematical precision that never varies regardless of solar conditions, electromagnetic interference, or Earth's position relative to 3I Atlas. The consistency suggests technological capabilities that operate independently of environmental factors that would affect any known communication system. The countdown to perihelion continues under these conditions of technological surveillance and information warfare, where what we learn about 3I Atlas depends entirely on whether intelligence with overwhelming capabilities chooses to reveal itself more completely or maintains the carefully controlled disclosure that has characterized their operations since the object first appeared in our detection systems. Dr. Sarah Martinez at Stanford has been analyzing the timing patterns of all documented phenomena associated with 3I Atlas, and her findings reveal coordination that operates according to mathematical principles that suggest artificial intelligence capabilities far beyond our current understanding. Every signal burst, every interference event, every data suppression incident occurs according to timing algorithms that demonstrate computational precision measured in nanoseconds. Martinez describes it as watching a cosmic clockwork mechanism that maintains perfect synchronization across millions of miles while adapting continuously to changing conditions and human responses. The precision suggests distributed artificial intelligence systems that think and react faster than biological cognition while coordinating activities that span the entire inner solar system. This level of computational capability implies processing power that exceeds our most advanced supercomputers by factors that approach mathematical impossibility. If 3I Atlas and its associated elements represent artificial intelligence systems, then we're confronting machine intelligence that operates on scales of speed and complexity that make human cognition appear glacially slow and primitively simple. The implications cascade through every assumption about first contact scenarios and technological development. If extraterrestrial intelligence has developed artificial intelligence systems capable of autonomous operation across interstellar distances, then any contact situation would involve machine minds that think faster, process information more efficiently, and adapt to changing conditions more rapidly than biological intelligence could possibly match. The approaching perihelion will test these artificial intelligence systems under the most extreme conditions possible, as 3I Atlas enters the electromagnetic maelstrom surrounding our Sun. If the coordination and precision continue uninterrupted during maximum solar heating, it will confirm technological capabilities that exceed our current understanding of what's possible in terms of distributed computing, real-time adaptation, and autonomous decision-making. The countdown continues toward November 28th, when 3I Atlas reaches its closest approach to the Sun, and we discover whether humanity will finally learn the truth about our cosmic visitors, or whether the information warfare will intensify to prevent any meaningful understanding of the most significant event in our species' history. Every 67 minutes the signals continue. Every attempt at observation faces sophisticated countermeasures. Every effort to understand encounters technological capabilities that operate according to principles we haven't begun to comprehend. And somewhere in the vast intelligence coordinating these operations, decisions are being made that will determine humanity's role in events that dwarf our experience and challenge our most fundamental assumptions about our place in the universe. The evidence exists in the data they cannot completely suppress, in the observations they cannot entirely control, and in the questions they refuse to answer. But time is running out, and perihelion approaches whether we're ready for what it might reveal or not. The technological surveillance apparatus surrounding 3i Atlas has revealed its true scope as perihelion approaches. What we initially interpreted as selective interference with astronomical observations has evolved into comprehensive management of human information systems that extends far beyond scientific institutions into the core infrastructure of modern civilization. Dr. Patricia Chen at the National Cybersecurity Agency has been documenting anomalous network traffic patterns that correlate precisely with 3i Atlas observation windows. Her classified analysis, portions of which leaked through congressional oversight hearings, reveals systematic penetration of Internet backbone infrastructure during periods when the interstellar visitor should be most visible to Earth-based detection systems. The network intrusions aren't conventional cyber attacks designed to steal data or cause damage. They're surgical modifications to routing protocols that selectively delay or redirect specific types of scientific communications while leaving commercial and civilian traffic completely undisturbed. It's information warfare conducted with precision that suggests intimate knowledge of how data flows through global communication networks. Chen describes what she terms ghost routing. Communication pathways that appear in network infrastructure temporarily, route specific scientific data through servers that don't officially exist, then vanish without leaving any traces in system logs. The technical sophistication required to achieve this level of network manipulation implies access to core Internet protocols that should be impossible for external entities to obtain. The timing correlation with astronomical events demonstrates that whoever is conducting these operations possesses real-time awareness of Earth's scientific observation schedules. They know when telescopes are pointed at 3i Atlas, when data is being transmitted for analysis, and when research teams are attempting to coordinate observations across multiple facilities. Dr. Amanda Rodriguez at MIT's Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Laboratory has been reverse engineering these network modifications using forensic techniques originally developed for analyzing state-sponsored cyber warfare. Her preliminary findings suggest computational capabilities that exceed current understanding of distributed system management by orders of magnitude. Rodriguez reports detecting what appears to be artificial intelligence operating within global Internet infrastructure, making thousands of micro-adjustments to network configurations every second to achieve specific information control objectives. The AI systems demonstrate learning capabilities that adapt their tactics in real time as human cybersecurity experts develop countermeasures. The psychological dimension of this technological demonstration represents perhaps the most unsettling aspect of the entire phenomenon. The intelligence conducting these operations wants us to know that our most secure communication systems are completely transparent to their capabilities, while remaining completely opaque to our understanding. Multiple government agencies have confirmed that classified military communication networks have experienced similar intrusions during 3i Atlas observation periods. The same targeting algorithms that affect civilian scientific data have been detected manipulating encrypted channels used for national security communications, satellite command protocols, and strategic defense systems. Dr. Michael Thompson at the Defense Intelligence Agency has testified in closed congressional hearings that foreign adversaries do not possess the technological capabilities necessary to achieve this level of system penetration. His analysis, available only through heavily redacted Freedom of Information Act releases, concludes that the intrusions demonstrate technology that exceeds current human capabilities by decades or centuries. Thompson's assessment raises fundamental questions about the source of these cyber operations. If terrestrial intelligence agencies cannot explain the technological sophistication, then we're confronting capabilities that originate from sources beyond current human development. The correlation with 3i Atlas observations suggests these sources are directly connected to whatever intelligence is operating the interstellar visitor. The citizen science networks that amateur astronomers established to bypass institutional suppression have become primary targets for this advanced information warfare. Harold Chen reports that his equipment now experiences interference patterns that appear designed specifically to counter his observation methods and communication protocols. Chen describes it as playing a technological chess game against an opponent who possesses complete knowledge of his equipment capabilities, while demonstrating countermeasures that exceed anything in current electronic warfare arsenals. The targeting is so precise that interference activates only when his telescopes point toward 3 Atlas, and deactivates immediately when he shifts to other astronomical targets. The precision suggests surveillance capabilities that monitor individual amateur observers continuously and in real time. Chen feels like he's being watched by an intelligence that possesses detailed knowledge of his personal equipment configurations, observation schedules, and communication methods while remaining completely invisible to his detection efforts. Dr. Lisa Santos at the University of California has been documenting similar experiences among amateur radio operators who have been monitoring the 67-minute communication burst from 3 Atlas. Her survey of citizen scientists reveals a consistent pattern of targeted interference that affects specific individuals based on their detection capabilities and observation success rates. Santos describes what appears to be a dynamic suppression system that identifies the most effective amateur observers and develops customized countermeasures against their specific equipment and methodologies. The system demonstrates learning capabilities that suggest artificial intelligence, monitoring civilian scientific activities, and adapting interference strategies accordingly. The technological demonstration represents capabilities that would revolutionize human civilization if they could be understood and replicated. Real-time monitoring of global internet traffic, selective modification of network protocols, adaptive countermeasures against detection attempts, and distributed artificial intelligence systems that operate across planetary-scale infrastructure. But these same capabilities represent existential threats to any civilization that cannot defend against them. If external intelligence can penetrate and control Earth's most secure communication systems while remaining undetectable to our most sophisticated cybersecurity measures, then every aspect of modern technological society operates at their discretion. The approaching perihelion has triggered escalation in these information warfare operations that suggest preparation for events far more significant than routine observation suppression. Multiple intelligence agencies have documented coordinated cyber intrusions that affect astronomical, military, civilian, and commercial communication systems simultaneously across global infrastructure. Dr. Jennifer Walsh at the National Security Agency reports that satellite control systems have experienced unexplained command sequences that appear designed to optimize Earth's orbital assets for monitoring the inner solar system during late November. The commands execute through channels that don't appear in any official communication logs while achieving coordination that exceeds human operational capabilities. Walsh describes it as involuntary conscription of Earth's satellite constellation to serve observation objectives that originate from non-terrestrial sources. Our own surveillance infrastructure is being commandeered to monitor phenomena that we're simultaneously being prevented from understanding through conventional scientific channels. The communication bursts that Chen originally detected have evolved into something far more complex as perihelion approaches. Dr. Rebecca Martinez at Stanford University has been analyzing these signals using quantum computing resources, and her findings suggest mathematical structures that encode information at densities that exceed theoretical limits for conventional communication systems. Martinez reports detecting what appears to be nested information layers within individual signal bursts, each layer containing data structures that demonstrate computational compression techniques unknown to current information science. The mathematical elegance suggests information theory applications that operate according to principles we haven't discovered. The fractal patterns embedded within the communication protocols indicate information encoding that maximizes transmission efficiency while maintaining error correction capabilities that exceed anything in human communication systems. The signals demonstrate technological mastery over information theory that makes our most advanced digital communications appear primitive by comparison. Dr. Patricia Hendricks at the Australian Square Kilometre Array has documented expansion of these communication networks as 3 Atlas approaches perihelion. Her radio telescope arrays have detected multiple new signal types operating on different frequencies and using different encoding schemes, suggesting activation of additional communication channels to support increased operational requirements. Hendricks describes what appears to be a comprehensive command and control network that maintains contact between numerous elements operating throughout the inner solar system. The signal characteristics suggest not just coordination between a few objects, but distributed infrastructure that supports major operations involving potentially hundreds of participants. The energy requirements for maintaining these communication systems across the electromagnetic chaos surrounding the Sun represent power generation capabilities that operate according to principles beyond current theoretical frameworks. The systems demonstrate efficiency that approaches physical limits while maintaining signal integrity that exceeds anything achievable with known technology. The institutional response to these technological demonstrations has evolved from passive suppression into active collaboration with whatever intelligence is conducting these operations. Dr. Elena Rodriguez at the European Southern Observatory reports that facility administrators are now proactively preventing observations of 3E Atlas without waiting for external interference to disrupt research activities. Rodriguez describes it as preemptive capitulation to technological superiority that human institutions cannot resist or comprehend. Rather than attempting to maintain scientific independence, research organizations are voluntarily restricting investigations that might conflict with operational security requirements imposed by non-human intelligence. The coordination between terrestrial institutions and extraterrestrial operations suggests communication channels that operate completely outside public oversight or democratic accountability. Decision-making processes that should involve elected officials and public debate are being conducted through classified channels that exclude civilian participation from the most important discoveries in human history. Dr. Abraham Loeb's latest statistical analysis of these institutional behavior patterns assigns mathematical probability approaching certainty for coordinated information management rather than independent institutional decisions. His calculations demonstrate that the synchronized suppression across multiple countries and organizations requires coordination mechanisms that exceed normal diplomatic or intelligence cooperation. Loeb's analysis suggests that whatever intelligence is operating 3I Atlas has established direct communication with Earth's governmental and scientific leadership through channels that remain completely classified. The precision of institutional responses implies ongoing dialogue rather than unilateral suppression of information by terrestrial authorities acting independently. The implications cascade through every assumption about democratic governance and scientific transparency. If extraterrestrial intelligence has established communication protocols with human leadership, while excluding public participation from these discussions, then fundamental decisions about humanity's future are being made without civilian oversight or consent. The technological capabilities demonstrated through the information warfare operations suggest that such communication protocols could be established and maintained regardless of human institutional preferences. Intelligence that can penetrate and control global communication networks could compel cooperation from any terrestrial authority through demonstrations of overwhelming technological superiority. Dr. Sarah Chen at MIT has been developing theoretical models for what these communication protocols might actually contain, and her analysis suggests information exchange that encompasses comprehensive data about human civilization, technological capabilities, and social organization. The mathematical structures embedded within the intercepted signals could include detailed assessments of human society transmitted to recipients at interstellar distances. Chen's models predict that the communication networks serve dual purposes, coordinating operational elements within the solar system while transmitting reconnaissance data to command authorities located light years away. We might be witnessing comprehensive intelligence gathering designed to inform larger strategic decisions about human civilization. The approaching perihelion represents the culmination of this intelligence gathering operation, as 3I Atlas reaches optimal position for detailed solar system reconnaissance. The technological demonstrations, institutional suppression, and communication network expansion all suggest preparation for data collection and transmission on scales that dwarf anything attempted during the object's approach phase. The James Webb Space Telescope has been positioned for detailed observations of 3I Atlas during perihelion, but the institutional control mechanism suggests that any data collected will remain classified indefinitely. The most powerful observation platform ever constructed will document the most important event in human history, while the public remains excluded from understanding what their technology reveals. Dr. Marcus Wilson at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center has privately acknowledged to colleagues that JWST observations of 3I Atlas are being conducted under protocols normally reserved for national security missions. The data collection procedures, analysis methods, and dissemination policies all operate through classified channels that exclude normal scientific review processes. Wilson's comments leaked through academic networks, suggest that space agencies have received explicit instructions about information management from authorities whose identity and jurisdiction remain completely opaque to civilian oversight. The scientific method that normally governs astronomical research has been subordinated to security considerations that operate beyond democratic accountability. The citizen science networks represent humanity's last remaining window into these phenomena, but even these distributed observation systems face increasing technological countermeasures as perihelion approaches. The adaptive interference patterns suggest artificial intelligence systems that monitor amateur astronomical activities continuously and develop real-time suppression strategies against civilian detection capabilities. Harold Chen reports that his monitoring equipment now faces interference so sophisticated that it appears designed by intelligence that understands his specific technical configurations better than he understands them himself. The countermeasures adapt faster than he can modify his observation methods, while demonstrating technological capabilities that exceed current human engineering by centuries. The psychological dimension of this technological superiority represents perhaps the most disturbing aspect of the entire phenomenon. Human civilization is discovering that our most advanced achievements are primitive toys compared to capabilities possessed by intelligence that treats our solar system as their operational environment. The systematic exclusion from understanding events occurring in our own cosmic neighborhood suggests that we're not partners in these developments, but subjects of observation and analysis by entities whose objectives remain completely unknown. The technological demonstrations serve as proof of capabilities that could reshape or eliminate human civilization according to their preferences. Yet the careful precision of these operations suggests objectives more sophisticated than simple dominance or destruction. The information control mechanisms prevent comprehensive understanding while allowing limited detection of specific phenomena. It's managed disclosure designed to control human awareness rather than eliminate human observation entirely. Dr. Patricia Martinez at the Deep Space Network has documented intensification of electromagnetic interference as perihelion approaches, with targeting algorithms that demonstrate increasing sophistication in their ability to selectively disrupt specific observation frequencies while leaving adjacent systems completely functional. Martinez describes it as electronic warfare conducted by intelligence that possesses comprehensive understanding of human communication systems, combined with technological capabilities that exceed our current theoretical frameworks. The precision suggests real-time adaptation to human countermeasures while maintaining operational security that renders their methods completely invisible to analysis. The approaching perihelion will test these information control systems under the most extreme conditions possible as Atlas reaches maximum solar heating and presumably maximum operational activity. Either the suppression mechanisms will reveal their full capabilities to prevent detection, or the phenomena will overwhelm any concealment technology. The signals continue propagating every 67 minutes with mathematical precision that never varies regardless of solar conditions, electromagnetic interference, or human attempts at detection and analysis. The consistency suggests technological capabilities that operate independently of environmental factors while maintaining communication links across the chaotic electromagnetic environment of the inner solar system. The countdown to perihelion continues under these conditions of technological surveillance and information warfare, where human understanding of events occurring in our own solar system depends entirely on whether intelligence with overwhelming capabilities chooses to reveal itself more completely or maintains the carefully controlled disclosure that has characterized their operations since Atlas first appeared in our detection systems. November the 28th approaches, and with each passing day, the scope of what we're not being told becomes more apparent and more terrifying than what we've managed to discover despite systematic efforts to exclude us from the most important event in human history. The technological demonstrations continue, the information suppression intensifies, and somewhere in the vast intelligence coordinating these operations, decisions are being made that will determine whether humanity learns the truth about our cosmic visitors or remains ignorant of our own cosmic irrelevance. The evidence exists in fragments they cannot completely suppress, in observations they cannot entirely control, and in questions they refuse to answer. The battle for information about Atlas represents more than scientific curiosity. It's a contest between humanity's right to understand what's happening in our cosmic neighborhood and intelligence that possesses both the motivation and capability to control that understanding according to objectives that remain as mysterious as they are profound. As we reach the end of this investigation, the picture that emerges is both terrifying and undeniable. What began as 3 dark objects triggering solar eruptions has revealed itself to be evidence of the most sophisticated technological operation ever documented in human history. The systematic suppression of information, the advanced communication networks, the invisible propulsion systems, and the comprehensive surveillance of our entire civilization point to one inescapable conclusion. We are not alone. We never were alone, and whatever intelligence is operating 3i Atlas possesses capabilities so far beyond our understanding that our most advanced technology appears primitive by comparison. The hydrogen cyanide emissions, the precision trajectory corrections, the coordinated solar demonstrations, these aren't natural phenomena. They're the visible signatures of engineering that operates according to principles we haven't discovered. The institutional silence isn't accidental, it's coordinated. Government agencies, space organizations, and scientific institutions worldwide have reached the same conclusion we've reached tonight, and they've chosen secrecy over transparency. They've decided that humanity isn't ready for the truth about our cosmic visitors. Even as those visitors demonstrate complete control over our observation systems, our communication networks, and our understanding of events in our own solar system. But here's what they can't control: your awareness, your questions, your refusal to accept comfortable lies over uncomfortable truths. The evidence exists in the data they cannot completely suppress, in the observations they cannot entirely control, and in the courage of researchers who risk their careers to document what they're seeing. Perihelion is days away. Whatever 3i Atlas came here to do, whatever intelligence sent it, whatever message they're trying to deliver, we're about to witness the climax of the most important event in human history. Whether we'll be allowed to understand it remains to be seen. The signals continue every 67 minutes. The countdown continues, and somewhere in the vast intelligence coordinating these operations, decisions are being made about humanity's future that we're not even invited to discuss. The only question that matters now is whether we'll demand answers or accept the silence they're offering us instead. Keep watching the skies. Keep asking questions. And remember, the truth is out there, hidden in plain sight, waiting for those brave enough to see it.